me right. Come on tonight. If you really want me, you got to make it right. Yeah, yeah. Now, if you really want me, you got to learn to love me right. Come on tonight. If you really want me, you got to make it right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey. Looks like we're running out of time. Can hide away in nights no longer yours or mine. All things must change. It's so painful when nothing ever stays the same. But I must go on while you run away from love. Oh, next time you'll know not to let my love go when you feel afraid and you can't love nobody. Next time you'll know you must let your heart show till the dying day, my friend. Maybe I hurt too easily, but is it wrong to feel betrayed when love can't be? You could change your mind, no excuses could ever make me change mine. But I've got to be strong and believe I'll find the love such a happy feeling. Ooh, love to feel this way. Ooh, yeah, happy feeling. Looking in your eyes, happy feeling. You're a blessing in disguise, happy feeling. When I'm here with you, I just feel so good inside. Don't know what to do. 'cause I got my arms open wide. Well, if you're into me like you confess to me, give me what I'm waiting for. Gotta make a move, baby. Make a move, move, baby. Gotta make a move, baby. Make a move. Well, if you're into me like you confess to me, give me what I'm waiting for. You gotta make a move, baby. Make a move, move, baby. Gotta make a move, baby. Make a move. Yeah, 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 yeah. Move, baby. Make a move, move, baby. Move, baby, let me know, yeah, make a move. You walk in, close the light and shut me out again. So it starts and so it ends. You feel it, leave me cold and let me go at night. Something here just don't seem right. No, don't you make me lose it, throw it all away. Yeah. Don't you let us go this time. Don't you make me lose it, throw it all away. Don't you let us go this time. You're crying, but your tears don't speak for what I need. You know any fool could see. You want love, but you're not willing to give in an inch. Looks like I was wrong again. No, don't you make me lose it, throw it all away. Don't you let us go this time. Don't you make me lose it, throw it all away. Don't you let us go this time. This time. No, no, no. Don't you let me throw it all away. Don't you let us go this time. Don't you let us go this time. Don't you let us throw it all away. Don't you let us go this time. Don't you let us go. Don't you make me lose. Don't you let us throw it all away. Don't you let us go this time. Don't you throw it all away. feel good. I like dancing to the music, 'cause it makes me feel real, real. It makes me feel good. My body is feeling free. It lets the music flow through me. If you feel like dancing, feeling fine, let your body rock, shake it, let the music keep time. If the music makes you feel good, you should get up and move. Ooh, let the music make you feel good. You got to groove. I like dancing to the music, 'cause it makes me feel real, real. Makes me feel good. The rhythm is in my feet. I can't stand it when the music starts to beat. No, no. When I feel it creeping up my soul, I begin to groove, move, let the music take control. If the music makes you feel good, you should get up and move. Ooh, let the music make you feel good. You got to groove, make me feel real good. Make me better, make me feel real good. Na 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 na. I like dancing to the music. Na 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 na. I like dancing to the music. If the music makes you feel good, you should get up and move. Ooh, let the music makes you feel good. You got to groove. Ooh, if the music makes you feel good, you should get up and move. Ooh, let the music make you feel good. You got to groove. If the music makes the music, let the music get up and move with it's tearing me apart to watch you go. You're leaving with my heart and my soul. All I ever wanted was loving you. I never knew you'd leave this way. Oh, I don't wanna say goodbye. You think by now I'd be too old to cry. Oh, I don't wanna say goodbye. So turn around and walk away. Never look behind, 'cause I don't wanna say goodbye. why you wanna run. And
Are you trying to start a new podcast? Well, Anchor is the easiest way to do that. All you do is record your podcast.
Back,
Right?
yeah, COVID's it's
done.
done.
David, I'm so glad you're back. I'm so glad. That other guy we had in here for a couple episodes.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, rough.
Who was that guy again?
I don't know. I can't remember his name. Linux something Torvalds. I don't know.
Linux Torvald.
David is back, everybody, but we're not letting up on our COVID preparedness. We
That's
have
right.
2 barriers.
I couldn't go and punch James in the face because I'm mad at something he said, even if I wanted to.
Well, you could.
Yeah.
You'd have to smash through this glass.
He's pretty dramatic.
David, you must be excited because today we're talking about a Disney Pixar movie, Onward.
Woo! This is a movie I wanted to talk about even before it came out. I
Yeah.
was trying to get this one booked.
I kept going, no,
You didn't want to do this one?
not really. I mean, like, I am an adult. I have a kid. The kid is not at the age where she watches movies yet. She's only 9 months. I know there's going to be a time coming where there's going to be years where I have to just have Frozen on repeat. And I just want to have a little, like a hiatus. I want to be like celibate.
It's not
from,
so
from
much
kids movies right now.
It's not so much that you don't like kids movies; it's that you're trying to prep for the coming apocalypse.
That plus I also haven't had the experience of watching a lot of these really highly rated, world-renowned kids movies like Lion King and stuff and Toy Story. I haven't really seen them as an adult. So I have the childhood nostalgia.
Yeah.
But part of my brain's like, well, you were a kid, so those movies will suck when you're an adult. And I haven't, like, I know that David tells me he watches Moana and cries and stuff like
Not
that.
Moana.
And he's
No,
30.
That's Riley.
That's me.
Riley likes Moana.
I love
Okay.
Moana.
It's okay. It's
great.
pretty good.
You're like an aficionado of these things, though.
I love Pixar movies. I think they're exemplary films in terms of like script writing, in terms of animation. They're pushing the industry forward, and they're actually, I think, better movies than what most live action movies are. You can expect a certain level of quality from a Pixar movie, and even the bad ones are way better than an average movie. And
Pixar like never lets me down in terms of like you expect it to be kind of like a silly kids movie, and then they
Totally.
come through with like deep themes and like amazing technical execution.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And
Do you
Yeah.
think, obviously they're great animators, but do you think that the fact that it's animated makes it a little, that gives you some more freedom in terms of doing more takes? Maybe it's cheaper per minute. You have more freedom to change things and like polish things, whereas live action, it's like, well, we got 3 takes, that's all we have, and now we have to make it work in the edit.
Yeah, I think there's certainly an element of rush in live action where like you have 3 months to shoot this movie and that's that. Whereas in animation, you kind of can go back a step and redo some stuff or like make a whole new scene. And like there's no clear like we're doing this part, we're doing this part, we're doing this part. There is certainly like forward momentum.
It's not like you're booking locations or flying people around the
Exactly.
world, right?
Yeah,
Right.
and you can kind of fix things way later. Whereas a live action movie, once it's shot, unless you're doing reshoots and
we
those
have
things
it.
go so well.
We have it here at the office, even when sometimes there's a mistake in a video or a sponsor wants something else. And as a writer, the thing I always want to do is make it an audio pickup rather than a video pickup. I want to just get Linus to say something into a microphone in a room rather than having to get the cameras out and reshoot something.
Totally.
It's easier, like an order of magnitude easier. And so that's like all they're doing is just,
Yeah.
if they have to reshoot something, just get Chris Pratt to come in to a sound booth, maybe not even locally. Maybe he just goes into a studio that he has at his own house.
Totally.
I think like James Earl Jones has that kind of setup going.
Oh yeah.
I know James Earl Jones has that.
You been there?
Oh yeah, he's got the best setup.
What's his colloquial name? What do you call him when you go to his house?
Judge.
JJ.
JJ.
Judge. What's up, JJ? Let's do it.
Okay, guys, let's focus on Onward here. David, your opinion matters the most. What's your rating out of 10?
Pixar has once again conjured up movie magic, but this time it's more sleight of hand than pure wizardry.
Oh.
Damn.
7.8.
7.8.
Can you give me a reference point for your other
Jeez
Pixar
Louise.
picks out of 10?
I made a full ranking, and if you guys actually want to ever see this,
Wait a second. When you say you made a full ranking, what do you mean? Every Pixar movie?
yeah, it's every Pixar movie with a score.
He's showing me this giant list. The only thing that disappoints me about this is that it's in a Word, a Google Doc rather than a spreadsheet. But
I mean, and then I have it like sectioned off into 9s, 8s, and then I did an average and a mean between the different eras of Pixar.
Kill me.
he
Why?
was quarantined. He was quarantined for. Okay, please tell me you did that when you're at home.
Oh
and
no,
not-
I did that last night when I'm out of quarantine.
Jeez.
You did it last night.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
This isn't something you've been working on for years or months.
Oh no.
Okay, give me two
So-
movies above this one and 2 movies below this one.
Okay, so I think the best Pixar movie ever is Toy Story 2 and The Incredibles. Then Toy Story 4, and then Coco, and then okay, I gotta stop.
I take issue with that. I actually think the best. Anyways, continue.
Which one's the best one?
No, that was a joke.
Okay, but immediately above Onward, there's like Bug's Life, Finding Nemo, and right below is Monsters University and Brave. So that's kind of like the sandwich that I have it in between.
It's amazing because I haven't really even seen all these movies, but I somehow know you're right.
I think it's
It's the confidence. It's the confidence with
Yeah.
which he lays this out. He's just like, this is the best, and this is under that, and that's over that.
I love Pixar
And
movies.
you're like,
but
oh, I can't argue with
But
it.
based on how much I heard about all these movies, it totally makes sense. Like, I don't think I know a soul who's seen Brave. And I saw the first Monsters, Inc., but I didn't see
I don't,
MU.
I don't know a soul who would do this and then even argue with you about it,
that's my soulmate.
other than you.
I like my future best friend is someone who can step toe to toe on this Pixar discussion with me.
Let's argue for hours about which Pixar movie is
I
the
would do
best.
it. I would do it.
Riley, what's your rating out of
Oh.
10?
My rating is 7.5 out of 10, and my slogan is, Pixar does a DreamWorks. That's it. I couldn't come up with anything
I want you to
truly
unpack
clever.
that for us later.
I will.
Tell me what you mean.
Yeah,
by that.
the only slogans that I could think of were things that needed to be unpacked later, so that's what it is.
I love unpacking things.
I just love taking them out,
Yeah.
just talking about them.
As our
spreading 'em
local
out.
resident SJ Dub.
Jeez.
I'm going to give this movie a 6.5. Onward may not be the most charismatic Pixar movie, but it's guaranteed to critically hit you in the feels, no matter your armor class.
Hey,
Oh,
that's pretty good.
there we go.
I like that one.
I'm pretty clever.
Wow,
eh?
are you a writer?
I've done it before.
Pixar does a DreamWorks.
Tech news guy. Fast and Furious. All right, guys, before we get into it, let me tell you that this episode of the podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-belt grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels, including the best way to combat quarantine crotch, the Lawnmower 3.0. It's got a ceramic blade, 7,000 RPM quiet stroke motor, and even an LED light so you can see what you're doing, because who can afford to cut themselves these days when toilet paper is such a hot commodity?
Oh my
Get 20% off and free shipping with the code CARPOOL at manscaped.com. Carpool. That is it.
That was so topical.
Well, we'll just get ready because we're also brought to you by PIA, Private Internet Access. They help you hide your true IP address so you can bypass geo restrictions and censorship. You can connect up to 5 devices at once, which is crucial now that all those damn kids are back home.
Ugh.
It includes an internet kill switch if your VPN gets disconnected involuntarily, and it's available for Windows, Mac, Android, iOS, and even has a god dang Chrome extension. So check it out at lmg.gg/carpoolpia.
Calpulpia!
What's the synopsis of this movie, Riley?
Oh, let me tell you what happens in this
It's
movie.
better be
guys.
short and sweet. It's like a 90-minute
Yeah, yeah.
movie.
I couldn't go into the whole thing. Okay. Oh, sorry. Just played footsie with David a little bit. In a world inhabited by mythical creatures, magic was once commonplace, but has been since replaced with modern-day technology. On his 16th birthday, Ian Lightfoot the Elf is given a magic staff owned by his dad, who died before Ian was born, along with instructions for a visitation spell that can resurrect his father for a single day. But the spell goes awry, and Ian and his brother Barley only resurrect half their dad. It's the bottom half.
Yeah.
They could make some more brothers.
Mom was stoked. She's just like, that's enough.
With 24 hours before he's taken once more, the brothers embark on a quest to acquire a Phoenix gem to finish the spell. The brothers face terrible dangers, mysterious artifacts, and their mom's cop boyfriend on their journey to spend one more day with their dad.
Good old dad. Yeah, and
I don't spoil it.
Ian is, we're going to spoil it.
We're going to spoil it.
Spoiler starting now.
Hopefully this podcast is coming out right as it hits Disney+.
This movie's not on Disney Plus.
Not yet.
Because that's something we can talk about, is that this movie had a bit of a strange release schedule.
This was like the last movie to hit theaters before everyone was like, "Nope, coronavirus."
I think it hit a select amount of theaters, and then they pulled it, and then they just like released it
Well, it's not
on demand.
pulled, it's still playing.
It's still playing right.
Yeah.
Well,
And so
there's no
made
theaters open right now.
this
though.
weekend on Sunday. Well, that's not a good example, but like it's been making like $30,000 a day, whereas
Right.
a movie of this caliber would be making several million dollars
It's
a
just
day.
psychopaths. Whoever's open still.
Yeah, wherever
Where-
movies are, even in Canada, where much of the country is still not locked down, all the theaters are closed.
Yeah, I saw it.
Cineplex, Landmark.
I saw it in theaters before the craziness ended. So the first weekend it was released,
You
and it was
madman.
still very empty. It was like, oh, something's going on. It was kind of before all the craziness was like
Right.
official, but
So did they fast track it to Google Play Music where we watched it? So it
Yeah.
wouldn't have been able to. We had to buy it, right?
Yeah.
$25 Canadian. And
That's because it was on Google Play Music, so it's kind of weird to watch a movie on.
did I just say music?
You did.
Oh,
my
Riley.
gosh!
You are relentless. All right, Google Play Movies. You're saying it wouldn't have been available this
no.
quick, hey?
It's usually at least 3 months. With Disney movies, they're a little bit longer. It's like 3 to 6 months before they're available
Longer. Like when their runtime is longer?
in the theater. Yeah, so it'd be in
yeah,
theaters for 3 to 6 months, and then it would be.
The
available.
movies are longer in the theater.
Yeah, they
what?
cut it. They cut
A
it
2-hour
down.
one, you have to wait before you can watch it at home.
Yeah, so that definitely affected. I wonder if that kind of like subconsciously affected people's reception of the movie or like opinion of the movie. That like, you know that it wasn't doing as well, partially because of this quarantine thing, and then you go to watch it and you're like, well, this probably isn't going to be a new classic because it didn't do so well. You know?
I don't know. I think it already had other cards stacked against it. Like they're doing 2 movies this year. They don't usually do that, right?
Oh, they've done two a years.
Pixar
sometimes.
has?
Yeah.
But I think it's novel in that they're both new properties. I think most of the other times where they've done 2 a year, it's been a sequel.
Totally. It's in a Cars movie and then a good one, or Good Dinosaur and a good one.
They have like a TikTok cycle,
Totally.
like Intel. Like
It's-
you got the new good movie, and then you've got like an
It's
okay
not
one.
quite as drastic as like DreamWorks, where there's clearly one that they've invested into and one that is just the moneymaker. But there's definitely like, especially in recent times, where there's like, okay, this is the sequel, this is the good one, this is the sequel, this is the good one.
By the moneymaker, you mean a movie that won't be so good, but
Cars 3 and Coco. So they came out. They came out like 5 months apart. And Cars 3 is the moneymaker, where they get to sell 10 billion in toys, and Coco is the one that wins the Oscar.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And then so this year they've got Soul coming.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
which is going to be the Oscar winner.
Yeah.
my prediction.
yeah, I think most people the consensus is that one's gonna be.
Even the trailer. Well, I guess you guys saw it at home. I saw it Onward first in the theater.
Right.
And so there's trailers, and there's a trailer for Soul, and my girlfriend next to me started crying during the trailer. So it's like, it's gonna be more powerful than the movie.
Yeah.
And then the other crazy thing about the theater that is not talked about because it disappeared from theaters is the short film that plays before this film.
Right.
That's a tradition in Pixar films. Was a Simpsons short film.
yeah, I read that. And
Yeah,
I was
really?
confused.
And you
Yeah.
saw it.
Yeah, I saw it. It was pretty good. It was a mostly silent film. It's Maggie, and she falls in love with a kid at the park.
Was it 3D or regular Simpsons looking?
It's regular Simpsons looking. I think it was 3D in like depth. I can't really remember, but it was just like planes. But it looks like Simpsons animation, but high quality modern Simpsons. And it was pretty good. It's weird having Simpsons be part of a Disney
Right,
thing.
because Disney owns
Fox.
who
Yeah.
owns Simpsons.
Yes. But overall, I was like, yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I'd be okay with more of these.
That is weird. You know what? There's even another layer to that, which is the main character in this movie, Ian, is voiced by Spider-Man.
Yep.
Another Disney thing. It's
Yeah.
it's just everything is Disney.
Well,
And
it's
his
Tom
brother
Holland and Chris
Star-Lord.
Pratt. Yeah, they're both Avengers.
Ah,
Julia Louis Dreyfus is the mom. She's not in the Avengers.
Not
so-
yet.
Yeah, they'll bring her in.
Somehow.
She'll be some sort of government character.
but David is okay. So obviously it's Disney Pixar, but is there still a difference between like a pure Pixar movie and a Disney Pixar
Yes,
movie?
for sure. It's a different. They share technologies, but they don't share staff in terms of like writing and creative. And they have a different studio. They have a different workflow. And I'd say in general, Pixar movies have still been superior to Disney movies. Disney movies have been good. Like they've gotten way better. There was an era of like really shitty Disney movies, like Meet the Robinsons.
Are you
or,
talking?
like-
you're talking primarily though about like 3D animated stuff, maybe?
Yeah, well, they've given up on hand drawn. Like
Right.
Princess and the Frog, I really like, but
Yeah.
most people don't really like. And there's kind of like the, Meet the Robinsons, the Sky's Falling, Chicken Little One,
Right.
all those that are just like
Man, it's
Turbo.
It's honestly kind of sad to see some Pixar movies come out that are not like complete bangers. You know.
They haven't been-
it makes me sad because I'm like, oh, what did Disney do to you? You know?
It's been that's been a
You look at the kids on the playground, you're just like, you guys don't have childhoods. Now you know what it's like when
Well-
I look at you.
Well, okay, you'd never seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, dude. Come on,
Whatever, at least I didn't share a bedroom.
there was an era right when Disney bought Pixar.
I don't
it
know
was-
that you did.
I definitely did.
Well, so did I.
Four
didn't.
boys.
There was an era when Disney first bought Pixar where movies were still excellent. It was kind of
Oh, yeah.
a golden-ish age where like they bought them right after The Incredibles, I believe, and so there was like Ratatouille, WALL-E, and Up, and Toy Story 3 was kind of like the first era of movies after Cars, where Disney had bought them. But those movies were already in development. Like
Oh.
WALL-E, like there was a clip that played, I don't know, 10 years ago that was explaining like most of the Pixar first 10 movies were all pitched or like all came up with in one lunch meeting. They were just like the main creative heads
Wow.
kind of pitched all these ideas for Toy Story, WALL-E, like Monsters Inc., all these things in one meeting. They came up with
That's
it.
insane.
It's
That's crazy.
absolutely
The thing of
insane.
legend.
Oh, absolutely. What a
That
what a
one lunch
lunch
meeting. Yeah.
Crazy.
What are they having? What do you think they are eating that? What is in the water?
Oh, I want
Oh
to know.
man, some good shawarma.
Man, that would be a good self-help book. What champions eat for pro meetings. But then they went through a period of rough times.
A
with,
dark
like,
age?
Yeah, where like it was like Braves and Cars 2 and Good Dinosaur. But then they kind of got their footing again, like Inside Out. Even Cars 3 is okay, but Coco I think was the step up. And since then, all of them have been good to pretty good, and Onward's kind of the one exception of this trend back up. But it's still
Right.
pretty good. I think
You
it's
know
still
what?
pretty good.
This is hilarious to me that it just speaks to how kind of meh this movie. The movie isn't meh, obviously it's fine, but like I definitely felt especially in the first half that it was kind of meh, and the fact that we haven't even started talking about the movie yet. We're still talking about the situation
context.
surrounding it. Yeah.
I will say, you say that this is like a DreamWorks movie, but I think that's still better. A DreamWorks movie is very simple in its need to like personify the conflict, and like it needs to be very clear for kids. And this movie takes a more
Yeah.
ambiguous approach where there's no villain, there's
No,
no
it's,
Right.
antagonist.
It's PvE.
Totally.
Player
And I
versus
think
environment.
It's hard to do that, and they don't fully succeed in this. Where the conflict is a little bit there's a bit of struggle with this movie for not having a person to fight against. It's
Right.
just these two brothers on a quest. And because of the thematic they chose, some of the things you think are emotional payoffs aren't emotional payoffs. And I like that they tried to go for a mature approach with the theme of it's not like that he's going to get his dad back.
Yeah.
Is that his father figure was
Right.
always there, was his brother. I think that's a beautiful theme. I
Oh,
got
so
goosebumps.
good.
I got goosebumps just talking about
Yo,
it.
I was crying, dude.
It's beautiful.
I was crying.
I
at
was on
end
the
of this.
edge. I was very on the edge.
Yeah.
The movie I thought was at the beginning.
I mean, I wasn't like crying.
I was pretty-
I wasn't like sobbing, but like my eyes were wet.
Oh yeah, same.
Yeah.
And I was like not that into it, especially at the beginning. Like every beat that they hit for jokes. Overall, the jokes are pretty weak in this movie. I only chuckled a couple times.
Yeah.
But everything that they did, like 2 to 3 seconds before it happened, I knew it was gonna happen. You know, like this. Of course, they're gonna say this now. And then the only thing that caught me off guard is when he starts casting the spell, and his dad indeed is coming back. And I hadn't seen the trailer or anything. And then only the feet are there, and then the dad's foot like comes out and taps his son and like finds his boys, and then like he's actually there and he's
Yeah.
connected with them. I was like, wow, that was unexpected and very touching.
Oh, okay.
I was emotionally invested.
Literally
At that point.
touching.
I
Yes.
really like the idea of it being the bottom half, but I think they should have had some kind of thing where the dad could hear the kids. Because I feel like it felt
I did
a
think
little
that
bit lesser because like they can't really communicate.
Underutilized.
Well,
Underutilized.
And it was kind of
absolutely.
confusing because they established in the beginning that he can't hear them, but then at various points in the movie, it was clearly reacting to things that they're doing and stuff. So, I want to clarify what I said about the DreamWorks thing. I wrote down a note around a third of the way through, and I kind of felt this way until about halfway, where I was like, feels more like a DreamWorks movie than a Pixar movie. There's kind of like a otherworldly setup, but it's not really played for like. You know, like in Monsters Inc. or whatever, they really draw you into this world of monsters. Like when we're in the monsters world, they really like immerse you in that, and you can kind of see how the universe works. But in this one, I don't get that same sense of immersion. I get the sense that I'm looking through a window into this like fake world.
Did you find that
So
they...
wait. So I felt that it was a DreamWorks movie up until about halfway through, when they start kind of paying off on these emotional stakes, where we're like, oh, okay, this is what's actually important in the movie. The brothers start to have these bonding moments, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then by the end of it, I was like, the ending is 100% Pixar.
So good.
I was like, I almost made my slogan. They had us in the first half, not gonna lie, because the first half of this movie, I was like, Pixar sucks now. And then by the end of the movie, I was like, you did it again.
Totally.
Totally
Damn it.
awesome ending. So
Yeah.
the big reveal there is that he doesn't really need to say goodbye to his dad. He's not getting the chance physically. He's fighting this dragon. He's physically separated by some
Yeah.
distance from his dad, but it's okay because he realizes that it's his brother who needs to say goodbye to his dad, because his brother
Totally.
failed to say goodbye before
Yeah.
because he didn't want to see his dad looking like crap right on his deathbed.
Yeah.
And he also had the experience of having a father-like figure in his older brother, and that totally caught me off guard. I didn't see that coming, and it was so beautiful and awesome.
I
and then
loved
also
it.
it just made like screenplay sense, because no
Yeah.
no meeting with a father when they talk to him would be satisfying.
Exactly.
It would come off weird. It just wouldn't work. Like we don't know this character, to meet an important character at the end who we know we're only going to talk to for 2 minutes, and
Yeah.
to like have to get to know this character and crap.
Yeah,
It wouldn't make sense. So being at a distance and seeing them hug was wicked.
It's
Oh,
so
the way that they
powerful.
did that is like my inner self was like, no, I want to see him, but like my brain was like, no, this is for the best.
Well, it's hard because, like, I think on an intellectual level, I love that they made that decision. That they keep you at a distance. They
Yeah.
don't give you that emotional payoff that they've been setting up. They kind of reverse it and change it. But then there's a part of me that's like, I want that release.
Oh,
I
yeah.
want that moment of like, Dad, I never got to see you, and they hug, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh God.
For sure, but I
So
think
it's
that
hard.
was one of the lessons, one of the takeaways that these takeaways that I like to see in movies. That was like one
You're
of the
so unique in that.
it was one of the takeaways that I loved, was that like we don't always get what we want, and we don't always know what we need to
Totally.
get.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you think that
So, like, he
feeds
thought
into
that-
his character arc too? It's like he's trying to be bold, he's trying to be like his father, and
Yeah.
he kind of, this is a mature stance that he's taking, right?
Right. No, absolutely. Like I think that he thought that what he was lacking was a father, but that he didn't really realize that he had a father figure already. So like the movie spends a lot of time with Ian kind of being like, I need to meet my dad. I never got to meet my dad. That's wrong. But the only part of what makes that such a gap in his life is his own importance that he's placing on lacking a dad. When he could have been like, I don't need a dad. I have a father figure. I have a family. I have a really cool mom.
Yeah.
Like you don't necessarily. I mean, and I'm not trying to say that like dads aren't important, because I think that dads are a huge important influence. Having
You've got a very
positive,
cool dad.
Thanks, James. I'll tell him you said that.
I've met Riley's dad, and man,
Yeah.
He's pretty cool.
Riley is based on Riley's dad. Like so many of the voices, I spent a day
original.
shooting with him. There's an LTT video that features him, and I spent the whole day shooting with him. And the guy is a voice actor, and all day he just does voices all day.
Yeah.
And all of them, I was like, oh, that's where Riley does that from. Oh,
That's
weird.
definitely where I got all the silliness. But like, yeah, beyond any personal experience, I know that like a positive masculine and close influence is extremely important in people's lives, especially young boys. And I think that it was like a great lesson here to be like, okay, yeah, that's important. Having a dad is important, but maybe the dad comes in a different form than you're expecting. you know?
Totally. And I love that that part of the movie feels so sincere. And that's the director, Dan Scanlon, wrote that from his own experience, that he lost his dad very young, and he realized later that his brother had raised him. So it's like a
Right.
very personal story.
Yeah.
And when the movie's hitting those beats, it feels so genuine and sincere.
Yeah.
But before that, I kind of do agree with you that it feels a little DreamWorksy in its world building, where like the world it builds is not interesting at all. It's very lazy.
Well, and the unicorn thing in particular, having unicorns be
Like raccoons?
Yeah, raccoons was like, I was like, oh, that's so DreamWorks. Like that doesn't really seem like a Pixar thing to do, to be like, oh, you think unicorns are these like glorious, wondrous creatures? Well, really, they're just like vermin. I don't know. That just seems like a Pixar. I feel like that's not something that. I mean, it's a Pixar movie, but
Well, and I think for a movie that's so strong on
Doesn't
its
feel-
theme of like brotherhood, the world building actually works against that theme. The theme of the world is like remember the past, remember these things, and like the point of the movie is actually more like no, look forward, go onward, like look at your brother and move forward with that
Yeah.
Oh,
family.
that's true.
And
There's
I
a
think
schism
that
there.
that's actually a fundamental flaw with the movie that's not immediately apparent, but is part of I think why this movie isn't getting as great reviews is that there's a fundamental schism that's kind of breaking this movie apart.
That's the type of thing that the screenwriters know about, and are like, let's just go with it. Damn it.
Yeah. Well, and I think like we've had these postmodern fantasy satires before. We've had Shrek, and like I
Yeah.
think Shrek does a much better job taking fantasy and pulling it apart and like making us laugh at this. This movie does nothing original with the fantasy.
They
You
didn't
know-
really go with the world too much, right? Like it was a cool setup.
Yeah.
I like the world that they're in, but we didn't ever get to see, like let's say their mom is at her corporate job, and we get to see like a troll at the water cooler or something like that. You don't get to see
Yeah.
like fantastical creatures doing mundane 21st century
Yeah.
living. But maybe we saw enough of that in Monsters Inc. and it's kind of the same shtick. So
Maybe.
well, I don't know because maybe that would have helped this a lot. I feel like the world felt too mundane.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
it
and,
was
like-
literally just our world, except
a centaur is driving in a police car. He has to take out the
Yeah.
back seat or something.
yeah,
It's
and
hilarious.
instead of a dog, they've got a little dragon, and like, I don't know, the elves don't even have anything. They're humans, but with
Yeah.
pointy ears.
And blue skin. Yeah.
And by the way, one of the first. Okay, first of all, I think that's really cool that all the kind of lore and history you learn about the father ends up having to be about his feet. Like the fact that he's like, he wore purple socks to work sometimes. What a guy. That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, his son used to beat this little rhythm onto his feet. And then when he gets manifest as only feet, all these little character traits are still relevant. So that was really neat.
Right.
A very nice bow on that.
It was cool.
But as soon as they said he was quirky, he wore purple socks, I was like, wait a second. You guys have blue skin. That's probably like such a normal color to wear. That is like the most natural color choice.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
Wait, blue and purple?
It goes great.
What are you talking about?
Sully, he's blue and purple.
I guess so.
Yeah. Thank you, David.
Think about it again.
I got you.
Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like there's a few jokes in this movie that are kind of lame. Like they set up the half dad and they give him a top half of like clothes and pillows or whatever, so that it's like a floppy
That was
half
funny.
dad. But they stole an exact joke from Ratatouille where he's got the sunglasses on and then there's someone talking to him and then he flops over and gives like a sarcastic look just
Yeah.
because of the body language. And the people are like, hey, don't do that. But I'm like, that is the exact joke, like shot for shot, beat for beat from Ratatouille. And I was like, is this kind of like this whole movie is just recycled jokes or recycled thoughts?
It did, yeah. I mean, it did just lack a lot of. I honestly like. I was engaged by the premise the whole time, but there were definitely points at which I was kind of like, all right, when are we gonna get to the
in the
important part?
middle, when
Yeah.
they were following the ravens pointing, that's when I was like, okay, guys.
Oh, really?
See, I think once it's like,
I like that part.
more full fantasy, I'm way more into
Yeah.
it. I want like the sequel to this be like a full fantasy prequel, like set 1,000 years ago when it's like full magic world. Because I think
Yeah.
like you think of the climax, him fighting the dragon was actually friggin' sweet.
Yo, that
Also,
was
funniest
sick.
part.
Yeah.
Funniest part too.
Yeah.
And that dragon mask. I'm like, why do they keep showing this mask out on the school? They keep showing it. It's gonna be significant in some way. And then
Yeah.
it becomes the face of the dragon. I laughed out
Paid
loud.
off.
But then,
Hilarious.
but then every spell he uses is something you've seen in the movie, but he weaponizes it, and it's
I
like
love it.
really cool. And like he's like you feel his power, and I'm like, oh, this is like good fantasy. This is good action. This is great.
I love that element of like, yo, this is hard and you really have to work at it. And then we get that payoff of like, he's spent the time, really trying and working. And then, that, oh man, the end battle is like awesome. I was like, when he was like, Olaf Delavar, and he like holds up the sword and he's like, Excelsior, and like
Yeah.
shoots straight in. I was like, yeah. Like I actually like yelled at. I was like, yeah, dude.
Or when like the staff goes in the water, and you're like, oh crap! But
Yeah.
like they've set up the splinter, and he takes the splinter, blows it up,
Oh,
and he
it's so
enlarges
cool.
it.
Yeah.
That was creative.
Brilliant.
That was
So
awesome.
That last battle was, yeah.
That is
it
some
was-
D&D thinking.
And I want
Fantastic.
the movie to be more of that. I want like more of the magic. I want more of the like fantasy that they built. And like I was thinking about that. Like I want the next fantasy series to be a full animated thing. I think that the world is ready for like Pixar to do like Chronicles of Narnia or something full fantasy, like high fantasy.
Yeah, some sort of crazy fantasy
yeah,
franchise.
and like it'd be awesome. I think
Yeah.
we're ready for that.
I think so. I mean, this was sick, but it's still very it still had a very animated feel.
That's
Like
On the animation was sweet though.
so good.
it was.
It was so sweet because they have like it had so much depth. Like when they're in their house, you can tell that cupboards are like way behind them. There's a lot of depth. They had all the subsurface scattering, so the tips of their ears are red. Like the light
Yeah.
passes through the tips of their ears more readily, and you can see the blood.
I
You can
noticed
see
that.
the blood on their face and their cheeks is underneath the surface. It's
Yeah.
awesome. They totally have power to choose now exactly what elements they want to be photorealistic and what they want to stylize. And there's
Right.
like no, and as long as the stylistic elements have a strong character to them, there's no uncanny valley anymore.
What do you guys think about like the D&D references? You guys have
was
actually
great.
played D&D.
That was a great time to make a D&D heavy movie.
Yeah.
I think they made it really digestible. There was only 3 spells mentioned.
right.
They each
Oh, what?
spell,
Really?
Yeah, well, they did the Aloft Elvar thing, which, by the way, hailed my Google Assistant when he was practicing it. I don't know why.
Yeah, I swear you have the worst luck with Google Assistant. You like always complain about it not hearing things or
Everyone I know says their Google Assistant's getting worse over time.
It absolutely same. It's gotten so much worse.
I think it's because of, personally, I think it's human psychology. I think when you first buy one, you're like saying the words very clearly to
Yeah,
hail it,
yeah,
and then you
yeah.
get you're like, wow, this thing's pretty good, and then you get really lazy, and you're like, boo boo. Like sometimes I try to whisper to it and stuff.
I have friends who have kids who say, like one of their kids says, "Hey Juju," and
Yeah,
it picks it up.
Yeah, you probably just hailed somebody's thing.
Whoopsies. Sorry
Um,
guys. But Aloft Elevar,
Yeah, then there's the enlarged one, and then the lightning one.
Gargantuar,
Lightning,
Lightning, and then Excelsior.
the invisible bridge.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there's
No,
that one
There's
too.
like 5.
Back to the D&D thing though, I was actually watching this and wondering like, can they just say gelatinous cube? Like, isn't that
Is that a
Wizards
thing
of
from-
the Coast like IP?
Oh,
It is. So
I didn't even know.
It is. So you can use things like trolls and stuff they're derived from myth. No
Yeah,
one
yeah.
owns that. But things like the gelatinous cube was actually just made by Gary Gygax in like 1973 in like the first edition of D&D. Like he made that thing.
I had no idea that was a real D&D thing.
Yeah,
and
and
I was like, gelatinous cube. Like that just seems like something they made up for this movie. It seems so dumb.
So does Octavia's character, the
Manticore?
The Manticore.
That's like a real fantasy.
No, that's a Greek
Yeah,
thing.
That's
Yeah.
it, yeah.
Persian, I think.
Or whatever. Yeah.
But it's also a D&D thing.
That's
But
they-
okay.
What do you mean?
Well, okay, there's like
The Manticore was a thing before D&D.
yeah, but there's elements to it beyond just the like definition of a thing. There's like the creature's mythology and its name and its depiction are all different elements,
Right.
right? So, for example, like let's say you want to use goblins and they're public domain, but goblins have subraces in D&D and clan names and maybe deities, and you can't use those things because those aspects of goblins are D&D IP.
Right. If you make it clear that you're talking about D&D goblins. Maybe gelatinous cube isn't copyrighted, you know? It's just it's gelatinous
Well,
cube.
actually, I found out that they collaborated with.
Oh, well, there you
Wizards of
go.
the Coast.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
They worked together on this one. So,
Oh, interesting.
well, it's a huge boon for D&D, like
yeah,
huge exposure.
they
right?
would probably want.
Yeah, it's great for them.
Yeah, they wouldn't want to be like, hey, don't talk about our game that we want people to play.
And it's a great time because I feel like there's a resurgence in D&D right now.
Totally.
There's lots of people playing.
I loved the fact that D&D in this universe is based on real history instead of like fantasy stuff. Like I just thought that was like, but do we have like a? Well, we don't. I guess we don't really have like a popular role playing game that's based on real history. I mean, we have board games. And
God
stuff.
of War.
Yeah, totally.
there's board games that are good, like Twilight Struggle. It's
Right.
like a Cold War game that's awesome.
But it's funny that in this universe they have D&D and there's magic and spells and stuff, but that's all based on real magic and spells in the real universe.
But
not-
nobody contemporarily gives it any credence.
Right.
It's just like Star Wars, actually.
Well, but
that
that's-
old religion, the Force is a hoax.
But that's what
sucks.
weird is that people people do believe in magic in this world. Like they know that magic existed, but no one really bothers to do it because it's too hard.
Well, that's the thing.
It's
I
like
didn't
those
really
Facebook
believe.
posts you see going around that's like, why didn't I learn how to do my taxes in high school, but I know Pythagorean theorem?
Ah.
I hate those posts.
Oh,
They're so stupid.
well, I relate.
I hate those posts. I'm like,
I wish
yeah,
I
buddy.
learned how to do taxes in school.
Whoever shared, well, you can learn how to do taxes in a day. You just Google the stuff. There's a couple check boxes. Whoever's sharing
Well,
that post,
I'm talking about personal finances, but continue.
when you see someone share that post, it's never someone who does math at work. Because people who do, like people who are professional engineers, you really want those people learning Pythagorean theorem
Yeah.
in first year university you like 5 years later,
That
like, you
would
want
be-
them to learn the hard math that late in life.
That would be
That's
a little.
stupid.
It'd be a little scary if you had an engineer who like was like, "What's the Pythagorean
Yeah.
theory again?"
A,
Blah, blah, blah.
B,
Yeah.
square-
A B C
Times
D
2.
Yeah.
E F G.
Man, that's an element of the world building that I really don't like, is that there is no magic anymore. And I'm like, you'd have some magic left. Like, you think about
Yeah.
our world, like with all our modern conveniences, like people would still learn to make fireballs and lightning bolts, and like it's
It's like
too
it's like
awesome.
makers in our world. Like everyone just buys their phone, and doesn't know how it works. But then you have those some people who have 3D printers and they just make weird little doohickeys.
Maybe that's maybe you, I think you're right about that. That might be a reason why it kind of fell flat a little bit. The world building, like they just felt like weird shaped people doing
Yeah.
regular things.
Oh, totally.
Like I think in Monsters Inc. and stuff, you see, first of all, the visual aspect of having these like super weird looking monsters just like walking around with briefcases and stuff.
doing mundane things.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
these creatures almost seemed just like too normal. Like the elves were just people. The
You got the
The
centaur.
trolls were
the-
just, but they're just people still.
the centaur, yeah. I mean, I don't know. He just looks like completely normal. There were a couple fawns, and they just look like short people.
Here's a question for you. You know, you see those memes that's like, if a dog had pants or if a centaur had pants, would he wear them like this or like this? Do you think the centaur has a horse-sized dick or a human-sized dick?
I did think about that.
You thought about
I
it?
thought about it.
I didn't think about it once.
Really?
I'm 100%.
That elf mom's pretty thick. I think.
Oh,
Jeez
jeez.
Louise. Moving on.
I did love the centaur joke at the end when like he's kind of finding his true nature again. He's like, I don't need a car, and he like pulls his hat off.
Yeah,
He's got the
yeah.
that
long
was
hair.
amazing.
So
Yeah, that was
I knew
funny.
he was gonna run,
Yeah.
but the fact that his hair
Yeah.
came out was awesome.
Yeah, the best joke in the whole movie though is when they're being chased by the police, and then the younger brother tries to use a lightning spell to blow up the cliff to block the police from chasing him, and the older brother has to sacrifice his van and
Yeah.
smash it into the rock face in order to like let them continue their quest. But the whole setup of that scene was
Oh, it's so great.
so money. Like the tire popping and starts the car galloping,
yeah.
and then all the tickets that he has in his thing popping out. It is so epic.
It was glorious.
I actually didn't expect it to knock the rocks down. I thought he was just gonna make it drive off the edge, and they would chase that instead, like a red herring. But
Oh,
for me, the best joke though was when older brother Bronley, right?
Barley.
He was made small, and then he eventually came back to normal size. But then they got pulled over, and he needed to show his license and registration, but his wallet was still small. My wallet's still tiny. That was hilarious.
Oh no!
That's funny. What do you guys think of the title? I think it's like interesting that it's like it's kind of like a fantasy word, but it's also about like moving forward.
Yeah.
But I did not like the moment in the movie when they say it. Like in most movies, like Remember the Titans, it's like at the end of like a big rousing speech, like they'll remember the day that they faced the Titans or whatever it is, and it's like this big epic moment. And this movie, it's like this
Put it
joke.
in O.
It's like, yeah, put it in O for onward, and it's like that's a good joke. Like it's a funny joke, but it felt like it was I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's like where the whole thing. It seems like kind of a random place for the title to come
totally.
from. Yeah.
Agreed, and I don't think it's a very marketable title. I wasn't, like I said, I didn't even see the trailer. I knew nothing about this movie, but the title also didn't rouse any suspicion or curiosity in me. I didn't care
and
about the movie.
it also didn't really describe what happens in the movie so much. Like I feel like if there was more of a feeling of like we're leaving something behind or like we're, progressing in some way, but it was kind of about staying where you are and being happier with what you got type of thing.
Yeah. Do you know what really bothered me in this movie? Maybe the most is that the mom never gets to see the dad. And like they just don't make a big deal about it. I'm like, she really would want to see her husband that's been
I
dead
agree with
for
you.
like 15 years or whatever.
See-
and they just like there's a moment they're like, yeah, we won't have time to get like dad to see mom again. They're like, oh, moving on.
Was she acknowledged? Was she? She was in the area because she was fighting that dragon. But is there a shot of her seeing that the dad is present, far away?
I can't remember. I don't. There must be,
No, I think she can. I think she can see that it's happening.
but like.
But
And I guess like the writers would be like, well, she's already made her piece, and it's really Barley that
Yeah.
needs to make her piece. But it felt weird as an emotional thing. Also, I feel really sorry for the dad. Like, he's set up in the last days of his life. He set up this incredible spell.
Yeah, what
to
about
have
him?
a chance to see his kids as adults.
They screwed it up.
And then they screwed it up, and he just has to wander around, like, not really communicating, like, just a pair of legs. Like, that would suck. It was a once in, like, a lifetime opportunity, and they just kind of fucking it up.
Yeah.
Really upsets me.
Yeah, we should have cut back to the scene, like cut to the scene with Barley and the dad's just like, man, you really fucked this up, guys. Like, it's cool to see you again, you know. It's like, hey, goodbye and stuff, but like, man, I'm disappointed. But he says the opposite thing. He says, hey, I'm really happy with how you guys turned out, even though like the only thing you
Clearly
could tell
fucked
about
this
Ian was his feet.
No.
But
What's up with the part where they actually use the generally unutilized father to stand on a pressure plate? Remember, the water's
yeah,
rising
yeah.
and they need to stand
Yeah.
on that pressure plate so the door opens, and every time you step off the plate, the door closes. So they send the legs down to stand on it so that they can escape this,
yeah,
this
that was a
chamber. But then the legs come up and the door doesn't close.
Yeah, that
notice
was a
that?
bit confusing. I mean, I would have to assume that here we go into like complete speculation, trying to make sense of a plot hole mode again. I would assume that maybe you stand on the plate long enough for the thing to fully open, and then it
This
stays
is just
open.
from playing a lot of Zelda. You know,
Yeah,
you stand hard enough, it clicks.
yeah.
You press down and move to the left a bit.
That
you
didn't
can-
make any sense. No. Going back to the mom though for a second, I feel like I really appreciated her in this movie because I think that it showed a very strong female character who, like, the dad has been taken away, and she's basically raised these kids by herself. There's Colt Bronco, her new boyfriend, in the picture, but obviously they're not getting a lot from him, or they don't want to anyways.
Well, she is. We've already established.
Yeah. You made me lost my point because now I'm thinking of horse penis. At the end there, when she was like, I am a mighty warrior, I like how she just kind of like, oh, they took off, and instead of kind of like maybe doing the stereotypical thing, which is just like worrying and maybe talking to her
Yeah,
friends or
she-
something, she just like takes off.
But then I don't like that there's like the aerobics.
The aerobic sound?
Yeah.
the song from the aerobics?
Yeah, I didn't like that moment
Wait.
when she's like, I love the moment of like, I am a mighty warrior. She picks up the
Oh,
sword.
'cause that's what
but
they
then
said
the
on
beat
the-
starts. It's like,
Yeah, it was a callback to her like jazzercise.
I didn't even notice
and
that.
I just
There's
don't
a beat
like
going?
that. Yeah, I don't like that
You
moment.
think it cheapened her?
Yeah, or it just feels like silly, I guess.
I
and
thought it was
should
fine.
You know,
have
I-
been fully epic.
I agree there, but I didn't. When I watched it, I'm only agreeing just now because when I watched it, I did not make that connection.
Maybe it
at
was
all
fun. The other
with the
sound
Zumba
bit
thing.
that I noticed this rewatch is that when the dragon roars, there's a school bell ringing at
Yeah.
the same time,
I
and I'm
made
like,
a
that's a
note of
cool
that.
layering of sound effects. Whereas-
Yeah, that was
because
cool.
They absorbed the school, so he's
See,
built out of the school.
I thought that was really cool, but I thought it would have like hit a little heavier if maybe he had something with school, and then
Yeah.
the dragon like represented school, so
Totally.
he could like if he had like an annoying teacher or something, if that was part of the plot at all, that like something about school he had to overcome. But instead, it was just kind of like, oh, it's kind of funny because it's made from the school, so it's roars a school
Yeah,
bell.
thematically, it does. That's not a payoff.
There's
It's
a
just
couple.
fine.
There's a couple parts in this movie where it's like, you have. There's an element in the movie that would have more impact if there was a bit more groundwork laid up front.
Totally.
Yeah.
Do you think overall, like, is it the case? Because I think this movie's not that funny. But it really hits the feels. Is it the case that the funnier a movie is, the less ability it has to hit the feels? Is that a trade-off, a balancing act that you make? Because if a movie's hysterically funny, like let's say Shrek, I haven't seen this as an adult, but as a kid, I imagine Shrek's funnier than this movie, right? Shrek's funny.
Yeah, it's more jokes. Yeah.
But like, if you laugh a lot, can you? Is it jarring for you to go into something that really tugs at your heartstrings?
I think it's really hard. And like you think of like even the best comedies that have like emotional cores, like Shaun of the Dead or something. Just recently watched it. It's mostly a comedy up front, and then the last like 20 minutes are like full zombie movie where it's like people are dying and like it's really emotional and it's all these things. And then it has like a coda that's like comedy, but it has a hard time, even as like one of the best, most classic comedies of all time, mixing. And it's always kind of transitioning. And you think about comedies that are really good for the first like hour, and then the last 30 minutes always kind of suffer. Either they don't have a point and they stay a comedy, or they go too far into the drama and then they lose their comedy and they're not quite right. And so I think it's really hard.
I don't really have a ton of evidence maybe to back up what I'm about to say, but I feel like you can have a really, really, really funny movie that also has a strong emotional core. But you know what? Judd Apatow maybe does like a pretty good job of like making movies that are really funny, and like the whole movie is a comedy, but then there's like a real emotional core in it.
A Grace
But
Note.
I think that it depends on the types of jokes that you're making. If the jokes that you're making are in like largely based on just kind of like slapstick stupid humor that
Like in
doesn't
Shaun
make
of the
any
Dead,
sense.
it's like fart joke, recurring fart joke, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that
John,
if you,
I'm sorry.
I think maybe the more jokes that you have that like appeal, just kind of that aren't even really jokes that are super, super, super funny, appeal to something a little deeper than somebody getting slapped in the face. You know what I mean? So when you have when you have the type of comedy that appeals to like, it's funny because this character is a certain way instead of it's funny because he got pizza on his face. You know, I think that can lend itself more to something.
David, drawing from your vast knowledge of Pixar movies, if you think of your favorite, most emotional Pixar movies. Are any of them, which are more emotional than this movie, funnier than
No.
this movie?
The most emotional ones aren't particularly funny. Like I think Coco or Toy Story 3 are the most emotional ones, and they all have jokes. Like they're all kids movies, but they're never comedy. Like I'm trying to like. I think the
You don't think
funniest
Toy Story 3 is funnier than this movie?
slightly, but it's also has the advantage of having two other movies as weight behind this one, and so like the emotional
True.
payoffs can be borrowed from previous movies.
It's easier to make jokes
I'm
about
thinking
characters.
like Emperor's New Groove is probably the most comedy Disney movie, and it's like got an okay emotional core, and it's got a good like lesson, but it's not like a deeply affecting emotional movie.
Wow, so maybe those two things really are like just opposite sides of a teeter-totter.
It's hard.
I feel like Emperor's New Groove was pretty emotionally affecting.
I don't
It
even
is, but
remember.
not as much as like Lion.
I remember it being funny. That movie was
Yeah, not as much
hilarious.
as like Lion King or something.
Yeah, fair enough, I guess. I don't know. Well,
do-
okay.
I love Emperor's New Groove.
I haven't seen Emperor's New Groove in a long time, but I remember being like, "Oh man, he's learning to be a better person."
It sure is.
And like David Spade and John Goodman,
No,
great together.
Great.
It's like
Kronk is the best.
Oh yeah,
Kronk. Oh yeah, Kronk is the best character in that movie.
He's the funniest.
but so the villain's great too. I love her.
Emperor's New Groove, everybody.
Hey, what did you guys think about like the characterization in this movie? Because I wrote down specifically that I loved that they spent enough time to actually like show us why Ian and Barley are the way that they are. Ian is anxious and he lacks confidence because he lacked that paternal influence, and it turns out
But
that
he didn't.
Well, he thought that he did, right? Turns out that this is largely because he placed a lot of importance on what he was missing. This is what I talked about earlier.
You got a negative attitude, kid.
Yeah, exactly. And for Barley, they kind of set him up as being like he's like the mom says it at one point. One of them's afraid of everything, and the other one's not afraid of anything. And the reason that we find out that Barley is so afraid of unafraid of everything is because he had that moment where he was too afraid to go in to see his dad and say goodbye because he was covered in tubes, and he decided that he wouldn't be afraid of anything. I just loved that moment where they're sitting on the oversized Cheeto.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was a great moment. I was like, oh, I'm really glad that they gave us this.
Yeah.
Because then that also really pays off at the end where you're like, oh, we know why Barley has to have this moment with his dad instead of Ian. It's not really that important.
Ian's such a non-character, though. He's such a cliche. And
It's true.
I don't really like those really bumbling Act 1 kind of characters. It's the same as the dude in The Boys, Hugh in The Boys. He's just like, can't get words out of his mouth, and
Yeah.
he just sucks at everything.
And you know they're gonna have their like confidence built up by the end, and
It
you know
just
where it's
bugs
going.
me.
I think that contributed to my feeling that it kind of was like a DreamWorks-y type thing because he did seem really cookie cutter. He seemed really cookie cutter. It's just kind of like, I'm scared of being embarrassed in front of my friends. No,
A total waste of Tom Holland. It could have been anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, he's very
pretty
he's
good.
very
Tom
good. but-
Holland's pretty good at just being that, like, oh, I'm just trying to be a good guy. It is kind of funny. I was like, oh, who wrote this movie? And I went and looked it up, and it's like written by Dan Scanlon, and also this guy, and also
There was
this
like
guy.
7 or 8 people
yeah,
on the
yeah.
screenplay.
It's like
crazy.
written by Dan Scanlon and Disney Committee. Like,
Well, they make their movies like companies make products. It's not just an
Right.
auteur director.
Yeah.
It's like they have this team of people. They all have a role. They know how to do it.
High
They've done it
find.
before. Yeah.
yeah. And I like the way that I like that they do that. I don't want them to do it
They make
differently.
good movies.
But now maybe there was Pixar. It was a tight team. It was the hive mind operating at peak capacity. But now Disney kind of is like, oh, and also do this, and also make sure you do this, and put the Avengers in it.
Yeah, and there's going to be a series.
I actually, but as slightly unsatisfied as I was with this movie, I do want a sequel.
Yeah.
I want there to be a sequel, and like what you were
Upward.
describing.
The sci-fi one.
Yeah.
Backward.
Yeah.
Hey, what did you think of that little? They snuck it in there. That one gay character in the movie.
Oh yeah, the cop.
The cop making
being
reference
like,
to having
oh,
a
my
girlfriend.
girlfriend's daughter makes me pull my hair out.
Is that the first gay Disney character?
I'm not sure.
Maybe.
It was-
Good.
maybe.
Great. Let's normalize
They-
it.
For my part, it was appreciated but kind of tokenistic.
Yeah.
Also, do you think it's I don't know. It depends how woke you are, but do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing that character happened to be a cop, which is kind of like a trope? You know what I mean? Like
Masculine.
a really like a butch lesbian rather than just like.
I don't want to analyze
I don't
this
know.
too much for fear of being called an SJW.
You're such an analyzer. You're always analyzing.
No,
So
I
did-
mean honestly, what can we really say about it though? You know, we're three straight white guys.
Yeah.
I think it's nice
It's
that
a
they
tip
had
of
it
the
in
hat.
there, but
Yeah, thanks for
but
that.
I'm sure that we'd love to see more representation.
When
in the
are they
future.
gonna have a gay main character?
Hopefully soon.
Yeah, maybe.
I bet they'll ease into it. They'll probably have a main character whose parents are gay first.
Yeah. Or like a best friend of the main character.
Right. Although this one, just with the tiny mention in this one, it got banned in a number of
No way! I didn't know that.
Middle Eastern countries, and I think Russia changed the line to be like my partner's
partner.
daughter.
Oh my god, these
Yeah.
countries.
So I mean, as long as there's, I think it's still going to be hard as long as there's a financial
Yeah.
disincentive to do so.
That's fair.
Well, it really just depends what China wants.
Right?
China, I think they.
Does China care about that?
They just like famously don't have a policy.
Right.
I think that's my understanding.
But then
last time I looked.
culturally, it's not so. Who knows? I don't know. I'm not going to speak about it.
So do you think you're more likely to want to watch a Pixar movie after watching this one or less likely?
I mean, it was good. I watched it until the end. Okay, until the end. The end gave it like an extra 0.5 on my scale. Up
Give an
like the
extra
first
point.
the first 3 quarters of the movie, I was kind of like, I don't hate this, but I'd rather watch something else.
Right. The last quarter in particular is like, okay, this is a Pixar movie.
That's like their bread and butter. It's like their mission statement is like Pixar. We make movies that you don't feel like you wasted your money on when you take your kids to them.
Totally.
Like,
Yeah, you get to
Dad, I
yeah.
want to see this movie. You're like, yeah, fine. It's not going to suck.
Yeah.
That-
Yeah.
Well,
Um,
what are we going to do next week, guys?
Wait. What was the question you asked him?
Is it more likely to make you want to watch another Pixar movie?
I think that the point that you made earlier about Pixar doing kind of one really good one and one's not so good one, I think makes me understand that, because I was like, wait, what's going on here? I thought Pixar made like bangers every time, but it makes me understand that this one is maybe the
In-betweener.
the Meet the Robinsons and not the Coco. Coco.
I like,
I want some hot cocoa.
We should
yeah.
do Coco sometime on this show. No, we shouldn't. We shouldn't do it. It wouldn't be a very good episode.
All right, guys, we need your help to figure out what we're going to do next time, though. I have no idea what we're going to do.
I want to do an
next.
Edgar Wright movie.
Who's that again?
That's the guy who did like Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, at the
We
World's
can do
End,
Shaun of the
Scott
Dead
Pilgrim.
next.
Shaun of the Dead's, I don't know. I don't love it.
Honestly, I needed to do
Baby
Onward.
Driver didn't. I don't like it that
I
much.
needed
It's
to do
okay.
Onward this week because we did Raiders of the Lost Ark last week, and I was kind of like, meh. But I'm really glad we did Onward. Now it's like, well, let's do Shaun of the Dead. I don't know. Let's do some.
Let's
not
put that
so
as one
happy.
option. Maybe we can do another
Maybe
crazy
we can
movie.
have a poll, hey?
Yeah.
Shaun
We're
of the Dead, Kill Bill.
Yeah. That poll, by the way, is going to be at Carpool Critics on Twitter. That's where you can find us, message
Yeah.
us, we message back, and you can ask us crazy personal questions and technical questions that we're going to read out someday on our mailbag episode.
Dive far too deeply into our personal lives.
Please do. And also email us if you don't have Twitter. Everyone's got email. carpoolcriticspodcast@gmail.com.
You know what they say? Everyone's got email.
Everyone's on it.
Email. Everyone's on it.
You know what we should have on our mailbag episode? What was our first email addresses? I remember mine. Don't say it now.
I'll still use it.
What?
I was born with David at Linus Media Group. All right, guys. Love you.
Bye.
See you later.
Why are you saying love you? That's my thing.
I took it from you.
Gee, love you. I love you.
It's our thing.
made my decision.
Oh, that's you singing.
And I made this music video.
Oh my God, you did everything. Is that you?
Eyes with
Is that
wonder.
guy
Yeah, that's me.
with a shaved head?
Yeah.
Weird.
Okay, the mix seems pretty good. I mean, I'm only hearing.
So that's a cover of a bigger song.
Nice.
But
Dang, dude.
it's embarrassing. There's like
That's
recordings of
poppy.
me playing piano solos or like paired up with like some professional other musicians at the Queenie. If you really want to find it, I don't remember what year it is, but it'd be Coastal Church Christmas celebration or something.
So yeah, David
2015.
Stans, hunt that stuff down.
Yeah.
Yeah, top that, Riley.
Oh, I can't top that. But I took piano lessons also from when I don't know how old I was, but my grandma was like a very, very strict German piano teacher. So every time she came over, she would like make sure that we had practiced or whatever, and we never did. So we always disappointed her. Sorry, Oma. But yeah, I took piano lessons up until like grade 8. You said you did grade 10, right?
So I should clarify. I went up to grade 10. I never did the grade 10 exam.
Oh.
So I finished grade 9
okay.
and with the theory and the history.
So
and
you
the,
have grade 10 as much as I have a bio minor.
exactly.
Yeah.
We're fakers together.
Yeah. Piano lessons, I played clarinet and then baritone saxophone in high school.
And you have a brother named Barrett.
I do. So,
The instrument that sounds like
so
him.
never thought about that. Baritone sax. I played drums and stuff. I also played on like the worship team at my church.
Hell yeah.
Like
You went to church?
Oh heck yeah,
Yeah. Have you
my,
met him?
my entire childhood.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
HE double hockey stick.
My family would go up and play all together. So like my dad was playing guitar. I never learned guitar, which was sad, but I played piano and drums, and occasionally we put up a tin whistle. Have you
What?
seen those little
Really?
Irish whistles?
Oh my God.
Yeah, man.
This is so cute.
Yeah, dude.
Oh,
That was honestly but it was a great opportunity to like learn music and play it every week and like kind of pop, because like a lot of those like Christian songs, like they are very like four chordy and
Well, it's just pop from 4 years ago happening now.
yeah. So that was my whole deal. Yeah, played drums and piano and saxophone. That's my whole deal. Oh, and I was in a band. Sorry, that's where we were leading. I completely forgot. I was in a band called Gideon's Hill.
Oh, do you have any music for us?
I definitely do. Yes. Oh man, this is not even the good recording because it's the live show. We won
Sounds
a
like it was
battle.
pretty good, though.
We won a battle of the band, so we won
cool.
the opportunity to record an EP. So we actually like got to go to a studio and like
That's awesome.
and like record an EP. So I don't know where. I think I have the CD at home, but like I don't have a CD player. So like that's too bad. Anyways, yeah, I was in a band.
Sweet band. It sounds pretty cool, man.
what did you guys think of each other when you first met?
Oh man.
I thought Riley was pretty much the same as I think he is now. James, though.
What?
So me and James worked at a gym before we worked here together. That's how we first met.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
We worked somewhere else together.
Yeah, but I thought that was
That's how we knew each other.
yeah.
He was more friends with my girlfriends at that point because I thought he was the biggest kiss ass I've ever met in my entire life. So we're working in this
Oh.
fucking basement gym. The owner is like a big weirdo loser that I don't like for many reasons. But one of the first times I had a conversation with James, he was like having this deep plan on like how to make the gym successful, and you were like,
yeah, but also, yeah, okay. First of all, we disagree on who worked there first.
I worked there first.
I was pretty damn sure I worked there
I worked
first,
there
dude.
first.
Whatever. Anyway,
Guys, I worked there before both of you.
and then that was the kind of job where only one person worked at a time. And so the next person would come in and you kind of just hand off to them.
Right.
And so his girlfriend would come in.
So it's like a chicken or the egg situation.
What I'm getting at is like at the beginning of every month, like people's payments would bounce because they changed credit cards or something like that. So you have this list of people whose memberships didn't like automatically renew.
Oh, okay.
And you're supposed to call all those people and like leave a message like, hey, did you get a new credit card, or like what happened? And then just follow up on it.
Where's my money?
So I would actually do that. And then his girlfriend would come in for the afternoon shift, and one time I was like, hey, I made it through, like, I made a spreadsheet of the people who were outstanding, and I got like halfway through it, and so here's the remainder if you can just like do those. That's it. And she was like, yeah, I'm not doing this. And I was like, okay.
Oh, why not? Why
Because
did you
for a
wanna do it?
lot of people who work there, it's just like, man, I work here so that I can like do X while I get paid.
Right.
You know, like
Exactly.
I'm a personal trainer, and like I train my clients here, and then I also pick up shifts at the front
Yeah.
desk. Or like I'm a programmer, or
Right.
I'm a writer, and I'm writing my book here. while
It's
I'm on
also
shift.
it's also kind of like a confrontational thing to do. I can understand somebody not wanting to like call up people and be like,
I never
"Hey,
did it.
your payment expired.
Yeah, I never did it. And it's like
Give
if
us
they
your money, dude."
No one ever did it. No one ever did shit.
No.
Nobody ever did shit.
it wasn't
there.
good enough pay, it was garbage job. And it was
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, it's exactly what you said. I did it so that I could have paid hours doing other work. And I would just do photo
Man,
editing
that's
work
awesome.
or anything else.
That was kind of like lifeguarding at the outdoor pools. What was this question?
So David thought I was a keener. David
Yeah,
thought I was a
such a
keener
keener.
because I was the only one there who did his job. I wasn't the only
Whoa.
one. I wasn't the only one.
James.
Recommend them that.
James, you know what you sound like right now? A keener.
But it was for my own self-interest. One time, a guy screwed me. I was supposed to be off.
You can be a keener in your own self-interest.
I was supposed to be off at noon. I called this guy's like 12:20. I'm like, dude, where are you? He's like, I didn't know I was supposed to work today. I thought so-and-so was supposed to work today. And that's because the schedule was just a piece of paper on the wall. I made it into a Google Sheet and shared it to everybody. I'm like, look, now you can see it on your phone.
Yeah, that was a good change.
Don't screw me over anymore.
Nerd.
One time David was working out. I think this is before you worked there. He was working out. He was pretty strong back then. He was using the squat.
Back then.
I would have killed a bear for sure.
David was jacked before, man. Handstand
sure.
push-ups and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And he was doing squats, and I went up to him and I was like, hey, man, can I work in with you? Because the squat racks were all full. And he was like, no. He was like, sorry. Well, it made sense. You're doing like 30-second rests or something.
Okay,
You're doing
yeah,
some
yeah.
kind of pyramid. And I was
my
like,
gosh.
fair. But I
does
didn't
sound like
expect
me.
that. Usually people say yes.
Okay, I guess I'll go.
I'm such.
We did get along pretty quickly. I feel like we started talking about like philosophy and stuff.
That's because you didn't have a car, so I drove you.
That's right.
I drove you to work like right off the bat.
The carpool, yeah. It was you and me first,
First carpool.
and then Lloyd, and then David. Wow. David, I will say, when I first met you, seemed like a super nice guy, and it was fine until we started talking about The Last Jedi.
I remember that car
And
ride where I was like, are they
pretty,
mad?
that was pretty early on, right?
that was
like we
probably-
had known each other for like maybe a month or two. And so that was like one of the early like defining things, I feel like. And at that point I was like, oh man, this guy, he's got his head screwed on wrong.
We had to make a rule in the carpool. There was no Last Jedi talk for a while.
But we got over it.
Yeah.
We kind of found that middle ground of
Totally.
like, hey, okay, I'll admit that Last Jedi was a good movie outside of Star Wars, and you admitted that
it's a bad Star Wars
it's
movie.
a bad Star Wars movie. And then
Yeah, there
from
was a
there-
point where I would just yell, no Star Wars, and I would just turn up the music.
and I was like, come on.
No.
Yeah.
And finally, Jonathan Keevers asks, who do you think usually wins the debates? Wins the show?
I don't like to think of the show in terms of winning.
I win.
James wins every show. Just sits there impassively.
That's why I'm at the head of the table.
That's right.
It's also the butt at the table. I think the audience is at the head of the table. You're at the other end.
I feel like I do a pretty good job because this is my objective every time is to like take differing opinions and find the middle ground. You know, like in the fountain, that we were at each other's throats.
I never thought we would podcast again.
At the end, I was kind of like, okay, I can see why you don't like it, and you were like, I can see why you enjoy it, and that that's the end goal. I feel like I'm not looking to be right first and foremost. I'm just trying to
I
trying
think
to
we
find the middle
we
ground.
trade. We're like we all make good points, and I think we're good at admitting when the other person has made a salient point and admitting.
I don't
defeat.
know. You're pretty headstrong. I'm thinking.
No?
I'm trying to. I'm thinking back to like the carpool when we actually had way more debates.
Right.
Because the car was a bit of a safe space, so we went a little crazier.
That's true.
Than we do on air here.
You
And
don't
I
want to
feel
hear
like-
us just arguing.
I think Riley is pretty good at bringing forward points that I haven't considered and articulating them and making go,
Oh wow.
And David, I either just agree with or don't. And I think he's more like, I don't know if David's getting his mind changed either.
I had my mind changed.
Yeah.
You're projecting yourself onto me.
See, look at you.
We're about to have a debate right now.
Change your mind and say that you don't get your mind changed.
No, I said I do get my mind changed.
Yeah, I know. Which is
Oh,
the
I
opposite
don't
of-
get my mind changed. Yeah, that's a
Paradox.
paradox. Dang it, you're right.
A paradox is
Do you know who wins when we debate? It's the audience.
That's right.
Or no one.
One of those.
All right, so thank you so much to everybody who wrote into us, and we apologize so sincerely for the numerous writers who we didn't get to.
Oh yeah. Well, we couldn't get to all of them.
There's a lot of questions. So
We had
thanks,
so
thanks
many.
everybody. And we didn't delete your stuff. We still have it in our document. If this episode performs well, then maybe we'll do another one, or maybe we'll integrate one or two of these into every show. We don't know yet, but we have your questions. You're not forgotten, and you are appreciated.
We love you. Why did I say it like that? We love you. I'm like doing like a Care Bear.
Oh, and by the way, everyone, our next episode may have a guest who doesn't work here. So look out for that. Unknown what movie we're going to do next week, but we're always open to your suggestions. So you can hit us up on Twitter at Carpool Critics or email us at carpoolcriticspodcast@gmail.com.
I can't wait to sort through some juicy emails. Also, if you watch movies on...
Are you trying to start a new podcast? Well, Anchor is the easiest way to do that. All you do is record your podcast and upload it to Anchor for free. There's creation tools up to listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Hi, everybody in Podcast Land and also on YouTube. I'm James.
I'm David.
I'm Riley.
And this is the Carpool Critics Movie Podcast, where today we are talking about Edgar Wright's famous Shaun of the Dead. Spoiler alert!
That was spoiler alert. I took the T off because that's what the British people say, in case you were wondering.
With a Cockney accent.
Yeah.
I like it.
Spoiler alert!
I love it.
The kind of Christian Bale vibe on that. And if you're a part of our convoy of people who watch the movie ahead of time and like to follow along, next week we are going to be doing somehow the most requested movie.
Yeah.
Event Horizon. It's a late 90s sci-fi horror movie that everyone's emailing us about for some reason. It actually is sweet. It doesn't have the greatest ratings, but it's a sick movie. And guess what? Sarah's going to be here to talk about it with us.
Because it's a scary one.
Event Horizon.
When did people start requesting that? After which movie?
I don't know. I've
did a
seen
scary one.
I've seen requests like consistently,
Yeah.
but in the last 2 weeks we had 3.
I'd never even heard of the movie, really. Like I thought that phrase, I encountered that phrase, but I was like, if someone's like Event Horizon the movie, I'm like, who? What?
It's a science term.
Sounds like Quantum Leap.
Exactly.
But today it's all about Shaun of the Dead. Okay, cool. David, you really wanted to cover this movie. I'm interested to hear your slogan rating out of 10.
Shaun of the Dead is a movie so cleverly dense, it turns a reoccurring fart joke into efficient storytelling. Enough said. 8.8 out of 10.
Ooh, 8.8. Wow. Okay.
Could be a little bit higher, but well, there's something in there that put it down a little bit.
All right. I sense trouble on the horizon. Anyways, here we go. Well, here's my slogan. What's the plan then? Right. We film a zombie horror comedy, stuff it full of in-jokes, cameos, and synchronized musical sequences, release it a week after Dawn of the Dead remake, have a cup of tea, and start writing Hot Fuzz. 6.5 out of 10.
6.5. Brave.
Yeah.
Brave.
Because here's the deal. I don't know. I didn't feel it. I'm not feeling it that much. Although I obviously felt it enough to write that slogan. Spent a while on it.
I mean, this is a highly beloved movie. You can even see in the Twitter comments on our Twitter page at Carpool Critics where people were like, yes, do the
Yeah.
whole Cornetto trilogy. This is the best. Been waiting forever.
Just to clarify, our rating system, it's mostly all the same, right?
Yeah,
For me,
we're pretty close.
For me, if it's above 5, I liked it. Below 5, I didn't like it. This is 6.5, so I liked it, but I was just kind of like, eh.
Riley, I sympathize with you. Shaun of the Dead is a fresh, funny fusion of horror and comedy. V-likable, 7 out of 10.
V-leggable.
Like, I like it. I just don't love it.
Yeah.
How many times have you guys seen it?
Twice.
Twice.
Yeah, this is only my second time.
See, that's the thing, is you kind of have to buy in enough that you watch it over and over and you realize, like, there's not a single line in that movie that isn't used multiple times to build it out. And like,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
something that you get on multiple rewatches.
I did notice that stuff, and it actually helped having seen Baby Driver. There's a lot of
Totally.
you can really get the style.
The Edgar
Yeah,
Wrightness.
I think when I saw it the first time, I hadn't seen a lot of Edgar Wright movies, and so having seen like Scott Pilgrim, Baby Driver, I go back and watch this one. I'm like, oh man, he has these like very distinct cues where you like, oh, that's how you know it's an Edgar Wright movie. However, all of these things we were talking about, where the movie's like chocked full of like these special little moments and whatnot, I don't necessarily. Like they don't work on me as much, I guess. They don't speak to me in the same way, I think.
That's fair. Do you know what does speak to me?
What?
Our sponsor.
Carpool Critics is supported by Manscaped Performance Package Kit. It comes with a ton of stuff, including the new lawnmower waterproof trimmer with advanced skin-safe technology, and their crop preserver ball deodorant, which I've actually used. And I don't have this one, the Weed Whacker Nose and Ear Hair Trimmer. I used to make fun of people for needing this, but actually, now I'm one of you. My nose hairs are poking out. It also comes with their Shears 2.0 luxury nail kit. A lot of stuff. So head to manscaped.com/carpool20 today and get 20% off, plus free international shipping. I like that as a Canadian. I'm international.
We are not domestic.
And it all comes in their Shed travel bag, which is a very high quality bag. And there's a pair of boxers in there and a t-shirt.
Good gravy.
It's insane. Limited time only. We're also brought to you by Private Internet Access VPN. PIA helps you hide your true IP address so that you can bypass geo restrictions and censorship. You can connect up to 10 devices at once, and it includes an internet kill switch. Ding.
That's a cricket bat.
Okay. If your VPN gets disconnected involuntarily. PIA is available for Windows, Mac, Android, iOS, and even as a content criminal extension. So check it out as lmg.gg/carpoolcritics. Do it. We're just so bad at selling stuff. Ah.
What is happening today?
So for those of you who haven't seen this movie since, when did it come out?
2004.
2004. A
2
simpler
weeks.
time.
2 weeks after Dawn of the Dead, the remake.
I didn't see that one either.
It's okay.
I did.
Okay, Riley, why don't you remind us what happened with the... Hit us up with a bit of the remake.
In a London suburb, 29-year-old Sean works a dead-end job, lives with his slacker best friend Ed, and constantly lets down his girlfriend Liz. So she dumps him. After a night of heavy drinking at their favorite pub, the Winchester, Sean and Ed very slowly realize that zombies have overrun the city. So they set out to rescue Liz and Sean's mother, Barbara. Fighting off zombies with a cricket bat and a shovel, they retrieve Barbara and her husband Philip, who's been bitten, before picking up Liz and her flatmates, David and Diane. It's a big group now. Philip apologizes to Sean for their tumultuous relationship before becoming a zombie. The group finally arrive at the Winchester, discovering that the rifle above the bar is functional. Barbara reveals she was bitten and dies. David tries to shoot her, leading to an argument, but when Barbara reanimates, a distraught Sean does it himself. Zombies break into the pub, devouring David. Diane rushes out to save him. Ed is bitten before he, Sean, and Liz hide in the cellar. With only 2 bullets left, the group considers suicide before discovering a lift that opens onto the street. So Ed volunteers to hold the zombies off as Sean and Liz escape and meet the army, who gun down the horde. 6 months later, surviving zombies are used as cheap labor and entertainment. Liz moves in with Sean, who keeps the zombified Ed tethered in his shed, where they play video games. LOL. Weird ending. I didn't like it.
That's fair.
In what respect?
It's just like it passes it off as like a happy ending, but it's like it feels really weird
I think
because Liz and Sean are kind of back at square one, and oh, you kept your friend around, but he's a zombie and he's not really alive. Like, I don't know.
Nah, dude, they're not back at square one. They're not, because the whole movie is about his like transition out of basically adolescence. There's this aspect, like you can think of the character of Ed as like a part of his mind.
Yeah.
And it's at the stage of life that he's in, it's holding him back.
For sure.
And so he needs to either destroy that part of his mind,
Yeah.
or at least what's more healthy is just shrink it down to a manageable size. So by the end of the movie, when this part of him, Ed, is still alive, but it's literally on a leash. And it's in the shed. So.
Okay, I like that a little
You know,
bit more.
you still get, you could be a functioning adult and still play some video games.
No,
you
I
know,
know,
but it's just,
totally. I get that that's the metaphor, I guess. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way, though. I don't know. just from on a literal level, just like keeping Ed alive so that you can like go in the shed and play video games with it. It's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny, and I will say that about this movie because I don't want to get too negative right off the top. It is a very, very funny movie. We'll get back to the ending.
I think it
Let's-
plays into the kind of mid-2000s zombie thing where it was like, see, like, we're all zombies. Like, in real life, everybody's a zombie. Consumerism, zombies.
The Walking Dead. That's us.
Yeah. And so I think it's playing into that, because that was, like, really what zombie movies were about in that time, is
Right.
trying to say something about society with zombies.
Yeah, man. It was a zombie moment.
Yeah.
Zombies were huge.
Now the kind of new trend with zombies is to tell a human story with zombies as the backdrop, and like Walking Dead or Last of Us,
Yeah.
it's barely about the zombies. It's about human versus human conflict and how that plays out. But at this time, you were trying to use the zombies to say something.
Yeah,
that is the more interesting thing to do with zombies, because they force humans to be in crazy situations. But zombies themselves aren't that interesting.
No.
They're they're pretty one-dimensional when you interact with them. The cool thing about them is that they just never stop.
Yeah.
They're
Right.
always coming, so you're never safe. You can never relax.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
always high-strung, and that just makes you be in shitty situations all the time.
I mean, the interesting thing to me about the whole genre of like zombie movie, like when you just take like a generic zombie and think about the idea of a zombie, the thing that's interesting to me there is like what makes us human, right? Because this is an animated flesh machine that is like going around doing things, but something has been lost. It's not a human. We don't treat it as a human, even though only a human who is like innately familiar with the way that we like actually interact with us and behave would be able to tell that's not a human, that's a zombie, you know? So it's like an interesting question of what makes us human. But
Is this the first
movie
zombie
doesn't
comedy?
really- oh, I don't know.
Well, I mean, like Dawn of the Dead's pretty funny, like the OG one in the '80s, and I mean, like,
Intentionally?
yeah, a bit of both. Because I mean, it's again a social commentary about consumerism because it takes place in a mall very particularly,
Yeah.
so that they can accentuate how we're all brain dead because we're consumers. And so it's the first almost pure comedy. Although
Right.
I'm always shocked at the tonal shift by the end of this movie.
Yeah.
It's a pretty
Yeah.
big shift
That's one of
into
the-
like full, like self-sincere zombie
Totally.
sadness.
Like
That's-
by the time he's old yellering his own mom, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
yeah.
They tried to break it up a bit. I think the like second that he shoots her, Ed comes in with him kind of joke. To
Yeah.
kind of
yeah.
make it a little more more levity there, but
I think that in Edgar Wright's movies, that's what he does, right? Like he'll have these these human moments, but they're punctuated still by like, you know, a joke or whatever.
And I
And I
mean-
think that, or with something stylistically interesting at the very least. And I like that about him.
We'll get there, but I think that Hot Fuzz is a more tonally consistent movie, and I think that this movie suffers a tiny bit from it. But let's go back to the beginning, because I think this movie starts really strong.
Okay.
And I talked a little bit about the density of this movie, and how not a frame, not a second, not a line of dialogue is wasted. Everything is a setup and a payoff. Everything is foreshadowing, and it's insane the amount of like detail that went into this screenplay.
Yeah.
I really like the opening where at first there's just so many little reveals, right? You're looking just at him and he's just vacantly gazing off in the distance. You kind of think, oh, this guy's drinking alone. Then you find, okay, he's not drinking alone. He's with her.
Yeah.
And then they start talking about this character, Ed. Oh, it turns out he's in earshot. Ed's right there. And then they do it yet again with her friends there. That was pretty clever.
No, yeah, that whole structure is really intriguing, even to me as someone who's like, okay, no, I won't get in the negative. I really liked how she's like, Ed, it's not that I don't like Ed. Ed, it's not that I don't like you.
yeah.
And then it pans to him. Yeah. It's a great kind of way to bring you in with this like stylistic little flourish.
Totally, but it also introduces you so well to every single character, and those are like the kind of main players. Like the mom and the dad come later, but you really get a dynamic for what's going on. Even how David likes Liz a little bit, and like how he's so snarky to Sean because he's overcompensating for his liking of him.
Right.
You know what's sick, actually, I just realized, is not only do you get introduced to all the characters, but you get to introduce them in order of importance. Where sometimes when you meet a gang of 5 people at the beginning, you don't know who matters more than who else. But in this one, you actually you meet the main character, then Liz, then Ed, and then those other 2, they're kind of more side character-y, but they are in the main group.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, and then like they set up Sean's character arc in the first scene. Like it's insane. Like most movies will introduce you to where a character is, but they're not within the first scene. They're not going to be like, this is what he's going to do.
Yeah.
Like this movie just sets it up. It's like he has to grow up. He has to figure it out. He has to learn how to love Liz properly. And
Yeah.
like, I just love that.
I think that having the opening of a film set like in the middle of a scene can really help with that. I think a lot of filmmakers have an instinct to start somewhere basic, like he wakes up and he makes himself coffee and he's on his way to work, and like, oh, and we're kind of like learning things about him on the way as he's just going about his day or something,
Yeah.
the character. But this like starts right in the middle.
Cold
They've
open.
They've already been having this conversation. We're in the middle of this scene, and it's we get the feeling of the vibe is there.
Yeah. Well, then, like, all the lines of dialogue in that scene will be repeated again later with a new meaning. And, like, this movie does that all the time. They say a line of dialogue, and then there's a new meaning later. Like, when Liz has dumped Sean, and Ed is trying to give him a pep talk, and he's like, oh, like, there's a bunch of interesting people at this bar. See, like, it's all good. Like, Snake Hips, like, he's always surrounded by women. Later in the movie, Snake Hips is being eaten by a bunch of women.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like every single person that they set up will be returned in the movie in some way. Every single extra before the zombies will come back
Yeah.
as a zombie.
Every bit
in,
part
like, Yeah, in that
character.
montage before, like Mary is set up, and like to me that's a sign
Mary
of,
is the zombie they encounter in the
first zombie.
backyard.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
we see her as a cashier in the opening. Yeah.
And like I just
The one I noticed was cock it.
Yeah.
Ed in the first scene he says cock it like it's that means like oh crap.
Yeah.
kind of when he's playing games. And then later on, I think it's like third time he says it, where he says it to someone who's holding a gun and they literally cock it.
Yeah. Well, and there's really like great ones where you just don't pick it up like the first couple times you watch it, where Pete yells at Ed and he's like, "You want to live like an animal? Go live in the shed." And it's like,
Yeah.
he will go do that by the end. But I think the best one, and I didn't pick up on it till like maybe 2 or 3 watches ago, is when Ed is giving that pep talk to Sean, and he's talking about what we're gonna do to get through it. He's literally foreshadowing the entire movie, cocktail by cocktail.
But okay, I saw that too, and I'm like, okay, wait, did I put that in here?
Yeah. So we'll have a Bloody Mary first thing, a bite at the king's head, a couple at the Little Princess, stagger back here, and then bang bang back at the bar for shots.
Okay, so but the bite at the king's head.
Yeah, it's
is
about his dad who's
Phil,
a patriarch. Yeah.
Phil getting bitten.
Yeah.
I know, but it's just like I don't know. Like,
What do you want him to say?
No,
the
no,
dad's
no.
bite?
No, I'm not saying okay, here's my point. Getting a little bit into the negative,
Yeah.
just because I don't want to go too deep, but you're saying all of these things, and those are the very things that kind of annoyed me about the movie.
Really?
Because this is Edgar Wright. You know, I'm not. This is kind of what I'm saying about like not loving Edgar Wright's whole style.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very flashy. It's very, very self-referential, and it makes things very complex and stylish. But I think that while I'm watching, when they repeat lines like that, like 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, I'm like, okay, I can get it. But the whole movie, as you say, is just chock full of these references to things that other things that happen in the movie, things that happen in other things that the actors have done. There's like so many in references to Spaced, which was like the
love
TV
Spaced.
show that
Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg.
Simon Pegg and Nick Frost was in it too. And so like at a certain point, I'm just kind of like, all right, I get it.
See, I think though that
Tone it down.
The way you're saying it makes it sound like they're doing the same thing over and over, but they're bringing a dimensionality to this like meta self-referential element, and like they're approaching it from different ways, and like the way they do foreshadowing is totally different. Where one time they'll set up that there is the child locks on the car, and then like 2 scenes later, it's gonna fuck them over.
Yeah.
They're not doing the same thing with these self-referential things.
Yeah.
They're building out this like complex, like dense piece of tungsten of movie.
Right.
With like really interesting ideas, and like I mean, maybe it's a preference
No,
thing, but I just
It's
Yeah.
100% a
love.
preference
It's definitely
thing,
a
because
preference thing.
It's style, right? And
Yeah.
if it was just a good thing to do unanimously, this is how all movies would be done, and
Yeah.
it wouldn't be unique. It's unique because not everyone does it, because not everybody likes it.
Yep.
So just by its very nature, some people won't like it, and some people will really, really like it.
What I will say in on the positive side for this kind of thing is that Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg and the whole team seems to do an excellent job of having that style and also having substance. I think that when I see like all of these super heavy stylistic flourishes, I'm like, okay, you care way too much about style. But and that happens in a lot of other movies, right? People place more emphasis on that.
Like Baby
But-
Driver. This is better than Baby Driver.
Way
Right,
better.
right, exactly. Baby Driver is a great example of something that, in my opinion, places way too much emphasis on style, not enough on
I think that's
substance.
fair.
But this is a movie that I will say has the substance to back that up, so I really appreciate that. However, from someone who likes to kind of like immerse myself in what I'm watching, like even when I'm analyzing things, I like to be taken there. I like to be taken on a ride, and all of these little things just remind me that I'm watching a carefully crafted thing by Edgar Wright or whatever, and I just see the filmmaker instead of the film.
That's fair.
And I think that's
I think
where
that's
my
It's not my
preference
issue.
totally
is.
It's not my issue with it. I like it. It's cool, and I like noticing like he always says that, you know. I'm starting to get what they're doing, and I like all that. But for me, it has an effect where by the time I'm in like the final quarter of the movie, almost no line of dialogue is new by
Yeah,
that point.
yeah.
It's all like everything is a callback, and I just found myself like I chuckled many times in this movie, but I never like lost my shit.
I think that's really what it
Laughing
is
in this movie.
Yeah, for sure.
And
Like
for
by
me,
the
that's why
time-
it's a 7.
By the time everything's repeating itself, I'm like, okay,
But
yeah,
I think
we get it.
there is stuff like I think the big dramatic moments aren't all callbacks. Like there's moments that when they're going more into the self-serious, they know to like ease up on the meta pedal.
Totally.
And they're great. Some of those moments are great. The moment that he has the midpoint with his father in the backseat of the car.
Yeah.
it's a good moment.
Like and Simon Pegg suddenly has tears on his face, on his cheeks, and they're earned.
It's like perfectly placed to make you care about a movie, which up till now has mostly been just kind of a fun romp. And that moment really brings you in and be like, oh, yeah, this movie is about Sean's character and his development from the kind of this like slacker loser into a man of action, a hero, you know, a self-made person or whatever. And yeah, I was like, oh, that's actually kind of touching. Also, Bill Nighy's great.
Bill Nye? Oh, Nye.
Bill Nighy.
Yeah, I was like, wait, Bill Nye's in this movie?
When I saw that it was Bill Nighy playing his dad, or his father-in-law, or stepfather, I was like, yes, I love Bill Nighy.
What else is he in?
Oh man, he's in a million things.
Harry
Can't
Potter.
name any of them.
He's the
Doctor Who.
captain in Pirates of the Caribbean, the fish guy, Davy Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's in Harry Potter.
He's just one of those British actors that's in a ton of stuff.
He's
Okay.
he's in a million.
What this movie is so amazing at is delaying the zombies. It's amazing. You keep thinking like, okay, now they're gonna interact with the zombies, but then they don't again and again and again. Like, you know that there's zombies outside. They start walking outside of the bar, walking home, staggering drunk.
Yep.
And they start interacting with a zombie, but they're so drunk they don't realize because they're humming or singing some song. I don't know.
Yeah.
But then.
They interact with two
it's
zombies.
So clever, man. The zombie down the road is just groaning, and they think that he's singing along. So the song they're singing happens to have groaning in it, and then they chastise it. The dude's like, that twat over there doesn't know the words of the song, and then they walk on. That's so funny.
Yeah, I didn't laugh at that.
You don't like that?
But continue.
But I don't think this is a laugh out loud movie, and I don't think all comedies are laugh out loud. And like, when you're by yourself or with one other person, no movie is a laugh out loud movie.
I definitely laughed out loud at multiple points. I think it's a very, very funny movie, and I laughed out loud. It was just like that point. I was like, I think that there's a certain. Okay, we're still getting.
You're so set on the
No, I
negatives.
don't want to be tired. Look,
I'm not done. I'm
Okay,
talking about
fine,
the
go
delay.
ahead,
The
go ahead,
delayed
go ahead.
gratification
Yeah.
is so good because they're setting up the zombies for so long because they do that, again, similar to Baby Driver. There's that big walking shot. He's going through the town. It establishes all these characters like the kid with the soccer ball and the shopkeeper. And we kind of need that because then later on we need to know what Bizarro World looks like. He does that same walk again with the same long shot, and it's all different now. And that's the first time you're like, okay, now he's going to interact with all these zombies. He doesn't.
Yeah.
Then the bar thing happens. They still don't know. And then there's a zombie in their backyard, and they just think it's a drunk chick. It's delayed so far. Even when that first zombie is biting down on him, bearing down on him, they still are just like, man, this chick's nasty. He goes and gets a camera. It's just delayed to the max. I thought that was just expertly
And I
done.
love that it's a disposable camera too. Like he doesn't even have a real camera. Or anything.
And then after she gets impaled, he starts winding it up to It's pretty good that it's still as funny as it is all these years on.
Yeah.
Because comedies can really decay. I think
that's it goes to show how much they invested into the different kinds of comedy, because like comedies now are very like improv based, and everything is like, okay, we get really funny people into a room, we give them a funny scenario, and then they play it out. But this is so crafted, so meticulously crafted.
Right.
Like even the little things like Sean getting a phone call and the receiver just comes into frame like an inch from his face, and like they had to try that out, have the guy fully extended, getting it there, and like that's a way of having like comedy, is things entering or exiting the frame in like an unusual way.
I love when he's what, you never hopped a fence before and you found out the fence falls over? That was in the trailer, I think, but it's
Oh,
still,
that's a Cornetto trilogy thing. Every movie has a fence jumping joke.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I didn't
Wow.
see any of the other ones.
We got to do them. We'll see how. Yeah.
Do we have to?
I love this style of movie.
You just referenced another thing where they're just like setting up a joke and then repeating it multiple times.
Just turn Robbie off even more.
I think one thing we can all agree on is how good the transitions are in this movie. Like I love that they do the like really intense whip zooms on like mundane things, like brushing your teeth, opening
Yeah.
a drawer.
I
pulling
call
out-
that the Requiem for a Dream montage.
Yeah, and it's funny because like it serves as a good transition, but it's like it amps the intensity anyway, and like it works as the dual purpose for this movie, where it is a zombie movie and there is like death and like life stakes, but it's silly and like you're seeing jam being spread on toast really intensely.
Well,
And, like,
but it's
okay.
also the monotony of everyday life, and it has some kind of unity with when he's riding on the bus and everyone looks like a zombie and
Yeah.
they're all on their phones.
Oh, and it's the sandstorm, whatever that intense song is playing. Da-na-na-na.
Yeah, it's by a band with zombie in its name.
That song is called Whoa Whoa. Oh. I'm not joking.
But it's funny. Yeah, he's just on the bus and like the movie knows.
Yeah,
He likes it.
I love it. Even other transitions, like when they're about to like fake being zombies, and the friend has to like give him an acting class on being a zombie, and they're like, okay, 1, 2, 3, and then the transition is just a hard cut to them doing it. Like all these things you can't just like make that happen in editing. You can't just make that happen on the day. It's all planned and thought out. And this movie, I get the idea that like every frame, every second was like Edgar Wright had it in his mind.
Right.
And he just has such a vision for this movie.
I think it was Tolstoy who said like the most important part of writing is the transitions. It really makes a huge difference when you set up something like in what movie was it recently where we covered where it was Silence of the Lambs, where you're like, just never forget, Starling, what he is, and then it cuts to a whole different character saying, oh, he's a monster. It's like those transitions are sick.
Yeah.
I like the editing in this movie a lot. However, I will say that I think that those little Requiem for a Dream montages, I think they do a couple too many in this one. I was a little sick of them.
I think that's just a time thing where it's like in 2004 it would have felt a little more fresh, and now that we've had a parody on the parody on the parody, it's like, okay, yeah, I get
Definitely.
it too quick.
I think
could be.
I think that's probably a big reason why I wasn't feeling it so much either, because this came out in 2004, and at that time it was like the first. I don't even know if there's been other like zombie comedy type situations. Since then.
There was that one. What the heck was that one called? Where he's a zombie and he's in love with a
That's Warm
girl.
Bodies.
Warm
That's
Bodies.
like a romantic comedy. There's a comedy. There's comedy
Okay,
zombie
the
movies.
point being that the zombie genre has now been experimented so much with that there's all
Yeah.
sorts of different movies that
Zombieland.
explore different ideas and permutations. But at the time, this was like, oh, we've never really seen this before, like a fun, ridiculous, very stylized comedy set in a zombie apocalypse situation.
Well, you-
And some of these. At the time, I'm sure I agree with you that some of these like transition montages and stuff were like people were like, "Whoa, cool."
Well, you think about how Dawn of the Dead came 2 weeks before this, and that's a very self-serious, like classical zombie movie where it's not
Sort
like
of.
it's not postmodern where it's like trying to make a commentary
Yeah.
on like what society thinks about zombies. It's
It's
just like
Zack Snyder, so
Oh god, of course, of course it is.
it does have comedy in it, but it's not a comedy.
No,
Yeah.
but like it's very straight-faced. Where I think most zombie things now have to have like one level of postmodernism as a commentary on what zombies are.
Right.
And that movie was very straight-faced.
Zack
Like,
Snyder should just not make movies. Okay, wait. We're gonna do the Snyder cut, right?
we're gonna do
that.
this.
Yeah, we can talk about that then.
We'll talk about
This
it.
movie
then.
has great examples of premise delivery, where you're like, "Yep, this is why I came here." Like when they're in the backyard taking pictures of the zombie, like he tilts her head, it makes her smile. They take a picture, and then right after that's when they're throwing their records.
Yeah.
And the zombies are so slow that they have enough time to go through. Like, oh, don't throw Purple Rain.
Yeah.
No, throw that one. And they miss every time.
Yeah.
And they're trying to cut their heads off with these records. Like that was amazing. And that's exactly what I want out of, like, what could a zombie comedy be? That's exactly it.
Well, and I think that scene's great too because it helps you get to know Sean, but it also sets up like the musical numbers too, where you're like, okay, music and zombies are going to be intertwined, and so it serves like 4 purposes, even though
Yeah.
it's just like a silly comedy scene.
Yeah.
I love it.
See, okay. I just for the record, I didn't love that scene because I was kind of like, okay, I get it. You're going through the records and you can bash some and like, oh, don't throw that one. That one's good. I want to keep it. And I'm like, okay, so like, I don't know. It's just so transparent. And I think
What
that
a
like,
hater.
I
Yeah,
know.
I know. I'm being a hater right now
Yeah.
for sure. But like, I'm just trying to be honest about the like. It just didn't grip me, and probably part of that is because I'm not into like this kind of like rock star style, like, ooh, we're being flashy and we got crazy lens flares and transitions and whoosh and like effects, and I'm just like, I don't want to see that stuff. I don't want to see the magician doing the flourish. I just want to see the trick, you know? Don't like wow me with your
More of a David Blaine guy than a Chris
yeah,
Angel.
sure. Yeah, okay, yeah, I'll go with that. Sure. I mean, I'm not a real life David Blaine fan or whatever, but yeah,
Street magic.
as a metaphor, I want to be actually tricked into believing what I'm seeing instead of like having someone flash sparkly lights in front of me and be like, whoa, what happened?
I think that's totally fair, and I think that's not. You're not the person Edgar Wright's making these movies
No.
for. He's making these movies
For
for
David.
huge
Yeah.
movie fans that like watch movies nonstop, and like.
Wow.
For me, the
I watch
illusion
movies
of movies doesn't really exist anymore. When I went to film school and like saw the sausage being made, it changed how I enjoy movies. And then
The Sausage Being Made, 1956. Like it's a film. Like that's the title. I went to film school. I
And
saw
I
the
watched
sausage
this,
being made.
yeah, and I think like to me, the seeing the craft I totally get it because like it does take you out of it, but I think that when you see that kind of craft, I'm just in awe of the fact that he was able to cram that much craft into 140 minutes. Like it's not like not anyone doing their best could do it, and like these are two very talented writers working their absolute hearts out to make something that's so dense, and that takes a lot of skill.
I will say I respect the skill, and I respect Edgar Wright's ability to use the medium of cinema to its greatest potential. I don't know, whatever. They're not the greatest movies ever made, but it sounds like you maybe watched this video essay too that I was watching, where someone's like, comedies nowadays are so lame. You know, it's basically like sketch comedy put into a movie form, and there's no interesting camera moves. There's no like crazy stuff like art going on. But Edgar Wright does this thing where he is like, no, this is an interesting medium with so much potential for the combination of visuals and music and writing and acting, and so there's like so many things you can manipulate and like craft to be this vision that you want. And I do respect that. I think that I have a personal preference that even though I do know a lot about how movies are made and what goes on behind the scenes, I want to be tricked. And when a movie can do that for me, despite, like when I watch Lord of the Rings, I see all these problems with it, right? I'm like, oh, the effects are stupid here, and like I can see through that guy's disguise or whatever. But the writing and the themes are so compelling that I don't care. And with this one, I didn't care as much about the characters and what was going on enough for me to look past it's because he was drawing my attention to it.
Yeah, for
sure.
Like,
look at this.
He
look at
wants
this. Look
you
at
to
this.
see it. I do get that. I get it. I think though, like, there's just so many clever visual gags. I think my favorite one is the second time they're going through that big Steadicam shot where he ends up at the convenience store and back, and the first time he just opens the door and he like looks at a beer or whatever, puts it back, grabs a Coke, and goes and pays. But the second time there's like bloody hands on the window, and it's like you said, it's like the delaying of it, and then he just slips, and you're like, oh, there's blood there, and it's like they don't draw that attention to it, but you're just like, oh, this place is fucking dead.
I loved that.
So fucked up.
I loved that.
Yeah,
His
I think
hands are kind of
such a-
backwards on the door. Did you notice that?
It's like as if it was from the inside.
Yeah, it's like the door
Oh.
must have been opened when they went. Otherwise,
I didn't think about it, but yeah, you're right.
Oh, dang, dude.
Shit, this movie's.
For me, those moments, the moments like that where you recreate the shot before and after the zombie attack or whatever, I don't know who, like, are people leaning forward in that moment and being like, oh, it's the same shot, you know, or are they doing what I did, which was kind of like, oh, it's the same shot.
I think somewhere in between.
Yeah, what I said is before, it has a story purpose.
Yeah.
Like taking us through those same scenes before demonstrates to us like
but
the world is different now.
I guess that, but what's, to me, when you say it has a story purpose, it implies that there's something we learn in that moment.
I think it's part of the theme of like people were zombies before.
I
Like
guess
the garbage guy who like looked at him really creepily, and you're like, oh, is he a zombie already?
Or we're learning about Sean's character, that he is so oblivious.
Yes, I think that's part of it too.
Yeah.
He-
It's just,
people
they
are just
really
so-
beat you over the head with that, though, I think.
Yeah, but that's 2004.
Well,
audience, you know?
what all I'm saying is like we know that the world is different now because we saw it before. We saw it in the normal state, and we see it in the bizarro state.
Right, but like we don't need that whole shot to tell us that, right? We like look out on the street and we see the zombies and we're like, okay, we know. Anyway, okay, moving on.
Kind of.
You know?
I think there's other examples of really good visual storytelling. Something as simple as when he's making the or trying to make the reservation at the fish place. The way it's shot is like very smart and it's very simple. It's one. The movie has a little bit of shaky cam, but this is one of the few times it does it, and it does a shaky cam, and it pulls out with Sean, but he walks into basically what feels like an invisible wall just as he's connecting, and it's like this visual
Connecting as in
to like on the other side of the line, and it's this visual feeling that you get where it's like he's coming up against a wall with this reservation, and like it's just like such a simple camera move, but it accentuates the feeling that he's feeling, and it makes the audience participate.
That's something that I definitely do appreciate about this whole style is the camera moves that accentuate like character moments like that. Like when they are talking about what to do about the zombies in the backyard, and the camera follows Ed. They're like, what are they doing or whatever? And Ed walks over to the window, and the camera follows him over to the window. He opens the thing, and the zombies are right up against the glass, being like, and he closes the blinds again and walks back, and the camera follows him back over, and he's like, yeah, they're still there or whatever.
Yeah, I love that.
I appreciate those moments.
Yeah.
the presentation. Let's talk about Simon Pegg's acting. He's great.
I was like, how old is this character supposed to be? He says he's 29, but this guy's like pretty bald, and he was
Well,
30.
some be 8.
I know, but he was 34.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I think
But
part
still.
of why his performance is so good is that he actually co-wrote this with Edgar Wright, and like that's the whole Cornetto trilogy.
Right.
Simon Pegg wrote.
It really makes sense because it's like a vertically integrated product. Like we were saying
Totally.
before, like someone like Judd Apatow, he's gonna write all this dialogue on the page. He's gonna write jokes into the script, but a lot of it is getting the crew together and letting them kind of run wild on set and getting that kind of sketch vibe. Whereas this, it's so much more like auteur. I can't say it. Whatever.
Auteur, yeah.
It where we're writing in the gags. We're also writing in the camera move that matches that gag, and you get so many
Yeah.
different forms of comedy because of that.
It's hard to kind of put your finger on it, but in other comedies that don't have that auteur influence or whatever, where like the actor, the main protagonist and the writer director are kind of like working together on it. It's hard to put your finger on it, but there is something about a regular comedy that just doesn't have the depth of feeling that we get from Simon Pegg, and like these close-ups on his face, and he's just like, everything is just so perfect. It's hard to describe.
Well, I
But
think
you guys know what I'm talking about?
Totally.
Where it's
Well, I
like
mean-
when I watch him, I'm like, did this guy write and direct the movie? Because it kind of seems like it because he's
Well, they-
nailing everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were such a powerful dynamic duo. Like Space is an incredible show that you should absolutely watch if you haven't watched. And then the whole Cornetto trilogy is incredible. And I think Edgar Wright is missing something without the Simon Pegg. Because Simon Pegg's a great writer. He wrote Star Trek 13, and it's arguably the best of the new movies. And
Which one is that?
The Beyond.
Is that the third
Yeah, and
reboot
there's
one?
there's issues with it, but it's like a
haven't seen
very
it.
good. Oh, right, you should.
I've seen the first two.
The third one might be the best.
Oh wow.
But I think like you can see it in Scott Pilgrim, which I absolutely love. But Edgar Wright in that movie has tripled down on the style,
Right.
On like the like self-referential. Everything is like meta. Everything is like pulling you out of it.
Is that one come after this movie?
Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz. I think Scott Pilgrim was next, then At World's End, and then Baby Driver.
Ah, gotcha.
The thing tends to happen where you kind of dabble with a new style in your first movie, and then you refine your style as it goes, and then you become like a parody of your own style.
Yeah.
You become so stylistic that you get like a Family Guy episode making fun of you.
Well, I think-
like that's like
yeah.
like Tarantino by the time you're in Kill Bill or Grand Budapest Hotel, kind of
Yeah,
Wes
yeah,
Anderson.
it's
It's like if it's just the first movie I saw from you, it's just like insane. Like the hell am I looking at?
Totally, and I think Baby Driver really suffers from that, and we all kind of had that shared the opinion where it's like it's more style than substance. But I think with Simon Pegg in this movie, there's so much heart to it, and like the characters are good, and the relationships they have, and like you care about these. I cared about these people quite a bit by the end, and so there's all this clever like window dressing, but at the heart of this movie, there's a truth, there's an honesty that really does come through, and I think that
Totally.
elevates the movie beyond a lot of what else Edgar Wright has done.
yeah.
You,
Yeah.
you kind of get the sense because the way that the character arc is constructed, it's not like a zombie movie plus they gave him an arc. It's like they had a character who needed this arc, and the zombie facade
Yeah.
facilitates the character moving through the arc.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah, I think
I think there's a quote where Edgar Wright is saying what the impetus or the original idea was for this movie, and he's like, "Yeah, we were just hanging out, and we were just like, oh, what if we made this like movie about two idiots who are the last to notice that a zombie apocalypse has happened?" And that's it's like, okay, so that's where you came up like. It came from a real place too, because the two characters are clearly, they've said this multiple times, they're based off Simon Pegg's and Nick Frost's like actual relationship as roommates, and you can feel it.
part of the inspiration of this movie was actually an episode of Spaced, where
Right.
they were. It's like a zombie episode.
It's like a what if happened. Or
yeah.
What,
and it's great. Yeah, Space is.
So you've actually watched the show?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Is
It's
there only
like
one
two
season?
2 seasons, I believe.
Oh, okay.
And they're only. It's like a British show, so there's like 8 episodes or something.
Oh, so they have accents. I'm not into it.
It's great, but we're gonna talk about this, including the problem of Ed saying the N-word.
Oh yeah!
I thought we were gonna get to that later,
Erased
but
that from my mind completely. I was like, whoa!
I was like, wow, 2004.
I reacted as
Everyone
well.
thought this was okay.
I was just like, yeah. I leaned forward. I was like, what?
Yeah.
And I rewound. I was like, did he actually say that?
I think the point is to show how abrasive and edgelord edgy he is, because like it's not cool that he says it. Everyone's like, ugh. But that's not how you
Yeah.
would do it. in
Did-
2020.
would that have been in the trailer?
No.
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 No,
It's-
I think it was
wasn't
still
that
like.
bad.
I think people still viewed it as like a bad
Cringy.
word.
Yeah.
but I don't think that it had. I guess it didn't have. Well, they're British as well. I don't know. Maybe it's. Maybe
Well,
it was
I
a little
remember
bit-
that during that time. I guess I was in high school. People like wanted to say it because they thought it was cool. It was like, oh, it's cool if you can say it like without getting in trouble. And it was like the card pass, and
Yeah, I don't.
card pass.
I mean,
and
I don't
stuff.
ever
What's a
remember.
card pass?
Well, it's like you would get a pass to say it because you meet a certain criteria. It was bullshit.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember ever like that word ever being okay for someone not black to say.
Yeah.
So maybe I was just like out of the loop back
Yeah.
then. But
And I like I said, I think it is supposed to accentuate how his character is an outsider to everyone, and everyone is like made uncomfortable by him because
Yeah.
he constantly says stupid.
yeah,
shit.
he's clearly supposed to. And I think the same kind of goes for when he's like gay or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think even that, I think that's a little bit more. He's not saying, I'm homophobic. Like this is what gay people would do.
Yes.
He's like, the movie is making a comment about how straight men are like afraid of like emotional candidness,
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
They said that actually. Simon Pegg explained. Wait, can I read the actual quote?
Yeah, for sure.
Only if you do an accent.
Ed, so like Nick Frost and Simon Pegg did a promotional video for people to lock down
Oh, yeah, I
at the
remember
very
that,
beginning of the pandemic in like March 2020 or something. And anyways, you can go watch the video, but in the video he mentions this the gay joke in the movie, and he says the original joke wasn't intended. I'm not going to do the accent. The original joke wasn't intended as homophobic. It was more a comment on the absurdity of straight male appropriation of homophobic signifiers in order to denote their aversion to emotional candidness.
Yeah, that's totally what I would have said in retrospect too. Did they have a little disclaimer for the N-word?
Yeah.
No,
We're woke. I swear, we're woke.
no, not in that video.
Yeah.
But I think we were talking about this the other day, actually, how saying that's gay has gone from being, oh, this is actually offensive, and because you're saying this thing is bad because you're calling it gay, to being something where it's like, gay, as in like you care emotionally about people, and it's like sort of a meta criticism of heteronormative.
Well, it's like if
maleness.
your entire society is on the same page now, where
Yeah.
it's like